They walk in that room, they become yours. And you got this energy inside your soul that says, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt. I'll see you in the winner's circle, celebrating your victory. Let's go. 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 Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 169 of the AP and New Principal Academy, formerly known as the virtual AP Leadership Academy. Let me see who we got here this morning. We got my man John Few in the building. We got Takesha High, Sonia or Sonia Jackson. We got Dr. Rachel Edo Eckett. That's going to be my guest next Saturday, y'all. Rodney Richardson. Where we at? This thing jumped. We got Marsha Poe all the way in San Diego. We got D. Walker, Central Hicks, Scott Wiley, Dr. Demetrius Scott, D. Walker, my man, Principal Otis Kitchen II. Vanessa Zeskins in the building, Central Hicks. Hey, y'all, hit that share button, hit the retweet as you come in, repost, whatever, right? Share button, tag somebody. Hit the like button, too. That's what activates them algorithms. We got Janine Wilkins. I got to meet her finally last week, one of them days last week. Yaz Dillard is in the building. Donna Medina Sherrigance in the building. Got to see Donna last week, too. Carol Blanchard, Principal Dot McKeever Jeter, Michael Benton, Monica Welch, Dr. Rella Hicks. Carol Blanchard is in the building. Principal Sean Hertz in the building. Got to see Sean last week as well. He tore it up in his session, his recording, his live stream, just this past this morning, about an hour ago, half hour ago. So go back and check that out if you missed them. And then there's Dr. Sheikah Houston. Saw her last week. We're gonna talk about all that in a little while. But she and Tammy, Dr. Tammy Taylor, man, another outstanding session, live stream. So you all check them out, 10 o'clock and 10:30 every Saturday morning. We got Ronald Pugh in the building. Latina Michelle, Tiffany Adams is in the building. Yolanda McKinney, Cindy Truitt is in the building. James Wilburn, Kimberly Wilson Daniel. Y'all remember Kimberly Wilson Daniel, man? She was rocking with us in the beginning, preparing all them notes, and then she went on and got these promotions and all that. She's gonna be my guest. I don't know when it is, but she will be on. It might be like November, October, somewhere. She'll be on. I'm looking forward to that too. We got Lily Lanier, Edwin Garcia, bringing that Jersey love with him. Tamika Turner Haynes is in the building. Dr. Tynesha Rogers Banks. We got Melissa Jones Chunu in the building, 169. Stephanie Roth is in the building, man. That's my old publisher, my former publisher, man. We here, man. That's we were together for a while when she was with ASCD, leading the charge. Good stuff. Principal Dr. Tammy Taylor's in the building. Got to see her the other day. We got Annette Mack in the building, Golf RWT, Jasmine Harris. The Queen is in the building. Kimberly Broughton Kafele is here. Let's see what we got here. Carolyn Parker's in the building. Hortensia Hernandez is in the building. Who the heck is calling me, man? Don't y'all know that at 10:55 I'm doing the academy? Let's see. Got the little watch thing going on, you know. Dick Tracy in the building. Y'all don't, I shouldn't even say Dick Tracy because y'all young heads, you don't know what I just said. You guys like, who's that? Google him, right? Let's see what we got. We got Montgomery Enade. I probably messed that up. I tried. I'm getting ready to wrap it up in a second, y'all. Asia Burnett's in the building. Mary Tate, Jocelyn Nelson, Charlena Hottie, Jacqueline Harriet's in the building, man, doing big things up there in Nova Scotia. Good to see you. Sharice Ayers, I'll be up there too, man. I'll be up there in October, man. I can't wait. Sharice, long time. How you doing? Sharice was on the platform like over a year ago, whatever it was. But good to see you, Sharice. Cora Graves is in the building. I think I'm getting ready to wind it up. Let me see if there's anybody that I just need to shout, man. I see Whitney is in the building. Good to see you, Dr. Whitney Smith. Let me. Oh, I see Dr. Roz Gaskins, man. I saw her last week, man. Matter of fact, I saw Roz Gaskins all week, man. We saw her in Charlotte, saw her in Jacksonville, doing big things, man. But let me close it out, y'all. Let me formally say to y'all, you know, I'm home now, man. I can get loose here, man. I ain't in no hotel. So let me say to you, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 169 of the AP and New Principals Academy, formerly the virtual AP Leadership Academy. And let me ask you this question, y'all. How y'all doing, man? You know, that's always my question. How are you? How you feel? I posted a pic of myself yesterday. I was looking a little tired, man. I was, man. I did a 14-day run, man. And I should have been sleeping late. I was up this morning by like 6. You know, it's because when I see like a little crack of sunlight, I'm ready to go. You know, I got dreams, man. I got goals, man. I got vision. I got ambition. It's like, all right, I'm ready for this world today. I'm ready for these 24 hours. I'm ready to make something happen. I don't always know what it is, but it's gonna be something, right? So, you know, that's just me. I'm really energized. In fact, I need you to really know how I feel. So if you could just indulge me for a second. I'm on fire! Woo! Woo! Y'all know I gotta get that out of me, man. That's like my launch into the new week. So now I'm ready. I'm ready for next week. I'm gonna tell you all about that. But listen, you heard me saying I was seeing different people. Yeah, man. I've been on the road 2 weeks, man. But let me tell you about these 2 events this last week real quick. Black Educators Rock. You heard me promoting it for months. Well, we finally were in the space. So, you know, Sean is on here. Sean Hurt, Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor, they're on here. Dr. Roz Gaskins is on here, but there are others that I don't know they're on because they haven't made a comment or I didn't see the comment. But man, we were in the building, man. We were in the building. And what a time that we had while we were in the building. They were there for 4 days. I was there for 2. And it was just phenomenal. You know, I'm not going to spend all my time with that because I got these 2 dynamite guests on, but I just want you to know that we had a great time. And just the volume of former virtual AP Leadership Academy folks in the building and current AP and New Principals Academy folks in the building, man. You know, I did a day-long leadership training. And, you know, I think all them folks, they were Academy members, you know, so that was a good thing. And then, you know, later in the week, SREB, Making Schools Work Conference. The Black Educators Rock was in Jacksonville, and then the Making Schools Work, that was in, man, I don't remember where I was. Oh, Orlando. That was in Orlando, Florida, right? And, man, I did 2 sessions. Well, technically 3. You know, I did this Meet the Author, but I did these 2 sessions, right? Man, I mean, the volume of people in the first session who were members of the Academy. Man, we took this group shot, and then I did a little mini sermon. I did the party. I did the meeting after the meeting, the party after the party, right? And I know that little session we do for 2 minutes after is much stronger than the actual session that I'm there for. Because see, that's family now. See, the audience, you know, the audience is the audience. I love them. But them people from this Saturday Academy, it brings out something extra in me after the session. So then I did a second session in the afternoon, and I just assumed that them folks from the academy were the same ones from the morning, so I didn't need to do the picture over and over. So I said, who in the room was not in the morning session, did not participate in the picture and all that? All them hands. I'm like, what? A whole new group, a whole new batch? So we had to do it again. Then gave them that sermon. Bam, man. I was like preaching, man, working up a sweat, man, letting them know you got to be rooted in that why, man. That's what it was all about, right? Those little mini sessions after the session about that why, the significance of it, because because we think about how tough the work is, how challenging, overwhelming it can be sometimes. But when you rooted, grounded, planted in that why, you can overcome it, right? Because you haven't forgotten why you're there. See, when you forget why you're there, then all the mess that comes at you, all the crap that comes your way, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to become frustrated because you forgot why you're there. So now it's like you're treating it as a 9 to 5. It's just a job. It's your work, right? But when you remember your why, it's bigger than a job. It's bigger than the work. It's bigger than a career. It's bigger than a profession. It's your life's mission. See, it's your life's purpose. That's bigger. See, and that's my fuel. That's really what keeps me at it, right? So shout out to all the folks I saw this past week and last week at NASSP and NAESP. Shout out to all of them family members of the new AP and New Principals Academy, man. Just being with y'all, taking all them pictures, signing all them books, because y'all was bringing all them books I wrote, and that was it just made me feel good. So enough on that. Let me move on. Y'all, I got these guests, but I got some paperwork in front of me, right? Let me run through this real quick, y'all. And I still got to get them announcements in, but let's say I'm in presentation mode right now. My guest said they got unlimited time. I think they said that. I know I have unlimited time. I hope y'all got unlimited time, because I want to share something with you. I put together for some of my summer presenting what I call summer leadership reflections, right? You can call it end of year leadership reflections, or you can call it summer leadership reflections. And I put this together and I've been presenting it all over the place, and it's been resonating with a lot of people. I don't have time to do that presentation, obviously, but I want to read these 12 questions with zero commentary, right? Another time, maybe I'll do a whole session of solo where I'll just deal with those. But I just want to read these quick. I don't have them written. You can rewind this video later on any of the 5 platforms that we're on, the YouTube, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, or the 2 Facebook pages, and get these questions, right? But I'm not going to put them on the screen because people pay me to deliver them, right? So here, let me just read these to you real quick. End of year or summer reflections as it relates to you, right? Not to your school, but to you as a leader. Here we go. Number 1. How would I rate the year that I had overall on a scale of 1 to 10? What would be your rating, right? Whole lot of commentary with that, but I ain't going to give it to you. Number 2, am I satisfied with the year that I had? Number 3, if I could do a reset on the year, what would I do differently? Number 4, did I grow as a leader? Number 5, if my best teacher assessed my performance as a coach, what might be his or her perception or assessment of me? Number 6, if my most struggling teacher assessed my performance as a coach, what might be his or her perception or assessment of me? Number 7, what adjustments do I need to make instructionally? Number 8, what adjustments do I need to make relative to planning? Number 9, what adjustments do I need to make relative to organization? Number 10, what adjustments do I need to make relative to time management? And number 11, did my leadership add value to my school? And finally, number 12, was my leadership a difference maker for my school? Now, again, if I added the commentary with these, I could do this probably. If I did it right, it's 11 right now. I'd need till about 1 o'clock. Right? There's so much there for those 12 questions. I'm just giving you the questions. Rewind later on, and you can have the questions. Next week or the week after next, I'm going to go through the next set of 12. And then the week after that, I'm going to go through the final set of 12. So there's 36 of these questions for you to consider, right? Enough of that. First timers, welcome on board. Don't let this be your last time. You missed 168 sessions consecutive. I haven't missed a Saturday. right? So you missed 168. Go to the YouTube channel, hit that red button that says subscribe, and binge watch them, right? It's just so much value, and then the guests I have today are going to add even more value, right? So then there'll be 169 of these, so you don't want to miss those. So hit the subscribe button and also hit the notifications button on your platform you're watching, so that when I come on every Saturday, you ready to go. I told you the new name. I'll say it again: the AP and New Principals Academy. And the reason I don't have the word leadership in there is because when I start typing it in the various platforms in terms of the title, they only give you 100 characters. So with the word leadership, I can't fit it. So I cringe every time I say AP and AP and New Principal Academy, because I really wanted to be the AP and New Principals Leadership Academy. But if I put that whole title, I can't put the title of the presentation. I can't put the guests. I can't put the hashtag. I can't do none of it. So I got to drop the leadership. But trust and believe, it is the AP and New Principals Leadership Academy. Write them platforms and tell them to give us 50 more characters, and then I'm good. Where we at here? Yo, the new one, man. The Assistant Principal Identity. Man, this book is like flying, man. Who is burning my fingers? I can't even hold it long. It's blazing. Publishers keep sending me the numbers. They're like, man, that book's selling, man. So that means I got to thank all of y'all. And the number of books people brought for me to sign all the past 2 weeks. Oh my God. Right? What a blessing. So, woo, hands, woo. Burning, man. It's like the stove, right? So get yourself a copy. Go to Amazon, right? Go to ASCD, but I always say Amazon so I can keep a track of them sales ranks, right? That they got in Amazon. So go to Amazon and get yourself a copy. While you're there, you may as well get its companion, the Assistant Principal 50, right? So get them both. But right now, this is where my energy is, right here, right? So make sure you get yourself a copy. And then be sure to like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page while you're at it. Enough of these announcements. I got a great topic today, y'all. Hit the share button, hit the retweet. I'm done with announcements and everything. I got these two guests, two women, and they wrote this book. It's called Unwrapped: The Pursuit of Justice for Women Educators. If you're looking at me if you got another device near you, like you're looking at your one device, you got another one, just go to Amazon. I promise you, you don't even have to hear them yet. You want this, right? If you're a woman, you're going to be able to relate to this. If you're a man, you need to hear this, right? And you need to read this, but you need to hear them, right? Because sometimes we think we know some things that we really don't know. And that's what we're gonna talk about here. So let me get my guest up here. And don't worry about them little letters in the background. I got to work on something. But ignore that. Right. So I got Dr. Kendra Washington Bass and I got Kelly Peak Horner in the building. Good morning to the both of you.
Good morning. Good
morning. Good morning. We're
I'm glad
so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And we're gonna get into some stuff. So without, as the cliche goes, without further ado. Right, I don't know what that means. Right, people say it. What is a do? Right, I got to look it up one day. Right, so
yeah, I think that's British.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We all say it, but we don't really know what it is, right? So,
yes.
But yeah, let me share who you are. In fact, I said I wanted to cover you in two different places. So. Check this out, y'all. These are interesting bios. These are, you remember I had Zaretta Hammond on and she had that first person bio. Well, these are interesting. Kind of comparable to that same format. So Dr. Washington Bass, it says who I am. She said, I'm a Black mother, right? And let me not allow myself to start elaborating on a bio, right? But there's a piece of me that just wants to go in right quick. But let me hold back because I know we're gonna get into it in the questioning. So I'm a Black mother, wife, daughter, sister, friend, and woman of God. Let me read fast, y'all. I treasure time with my family and friends and love engaging in deep discussions about life. I declare my Blackness because it is an important identifier to understand who I am and how I navigate the world. Y'all, you getting me started. Listen, I'm supposed, I'm, supposed, I'm supposed to just read this, right? Listen, hey, y'all gotta work with me. I gotta read this again to the family out there. I gotta read that line again, y'all. I gotta read it again. I declare my blackness because it is an important identifier to understand who I am and how I navigate the world. Now, someone might be sitting there saying, man, but does Kelly feel funny? Wait till you hear what she wrote, right? So just hold on, right? Right? I learn from each interaction and transform my thinking. I love to laugh and I'm serious about ways to improve the lives of the people I meet. I'm here for a purpose and my life's journey helps to fulfill it. What I believe that every encounter and interaction is a learning moment. I believe that acquiring knowledge and skills will help me become more equipped to serve others. I'm passionate about sharing what I have learned and helping others to navigate spaces while maintaining who they are. Two more. How I lead. I lead with passion, grace, reflection, and vulnerability. My leadership is grounded in my beliefs, experiences, and teachings of my elders and experts in the field. And finally, how I learn. I'm an external processor. I usually express my thoughts and feelings out loud.
Yeah.
It does not mean that the first thing you hear me say is my final belief. I'm wrestling with the ideas in real time and thinking them through. I'm open to learning so my beliefs may change. That is the beauty of being a learner. I got to tell you, Kendra, before I go to Kelly, as I was, I spent a week getting preparing for this. Like I take this platform that seriously. So I almost turned these two bios into the entire conversation, and then I said, nah, I gotta get into some other things. But there's just so much there in
Mhm.
that. And then just for the folks to have a sense of your work, Kelly, Dr. Kendra Washington Bass is an educational leader, speaker, facilitator who coaches and develops school leaders. She's also an expert in the design of principal and leadership pipelines. She serves on a number of boards and organizations supporting leadership development in civic and educational sectors.
Yes.
Now let me go to Kelly Peaks Horner. Watch this, y'all. Who I am. I am a white mother, wife, daughter, sister, friend, and spiritual being. My best days include time with my family, good friends, and deep discussions, especially with my adult daughters, about navigating life and being a good citizen of the world. Now, put your ears to the speaker on this one. I'm keenly aware of my privilege as a white woman and make it an important aspect of my life's work to listen and learn from Black women and other marginalized communities. Learning is key for how I show up in every room I'm in. I wholeheartedly believe that joy can be integrated in hard work, laughter with serious discussion, and love with discourse. See, man, family out there, y'all know I could have taken these bios and run with this, man. Y'all know that. Y'all know that. What I believe that people are all genuinely doing the very best they can. Matter of fact, let me holler at my mother real quick because she's on here. Hey, Ma, right? Hey, Ma, you know what I could have done with these, right?
Oh,
I'm talking to my mother right now. She's 88. She on here watching. She's laying up in the
yes.
bed watching this. You know what I could have done with these bios, right? Because there's some stuff here. All right, Ma, later. So I believe that I believe that people are genuinely doing the very best they can, and along with that belief, it is essential that I create healthy boundaries for myself and others. I believe that every individual has value and something to contribute to this world. How I lead with an understanding that everyone, especially every woman, has a story, and that story matters. And that is my job as a leader, to discover how that story impacts others, their unique talents and strengths, and to create the conditions and culture for others to thrive. And finally, how I learn. I lean more towards the introvert side of the continuum. I spend a lot of time listening and thinking before I react. I learn best in small doses that allows me time to process, question, and ponder, and then put new learnings into action. I'm most engaged with one-on-one learning with an accountability or thought partner. And then just in terms of your professional life here, Kelly Peaks Horner, MED, is trained and certified executive education, leadership, and culture coach. She's a dare to lead facilitator who teaches courageous leadership skills based on the research of Dr. Brene Brown. With over 35 years of experience in the education sector, she works to disrupt systems so all within them may thrive. Great stuff, y'all. Great
Thank
stuff.
you.
Let's jump into it. Let me start with you. And we had agreed, because I want the family, because sometimes people in the world, not this family, but there's people in the world can be nitpicky like that. We agreed off camera, we gonna go first name, y'all. So somebody say,
Yes.
we start calling her doctor, right? We agree. We
Call me Kendra.
agree.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, Aaron, yeah, my mom, I see you, Aaron Jones. My mom hasn't missed not one of these, right?
That's great.
169 now. She watches, man. She watches. Because see, like, hey, Aaron Jones, let me just holler at you real quick, because you coming on here at some point. Because see, my mom is sitting here watching, but let me give you the backstory. My mom is sitting here saying, because I created that man.
That's right.
My mom saying, yo, whatever good you doing in the world, that's because I instilled in you. Right? That's what she's saying. So we talk later on the phone today, she's gonna be bringing it up, man. And that's what she does.
That is supposed to happen that way. That's what moms do. She's a black mother.
Exactly.
Probably tempted to leave a comment right now. She always said, I was gonna leave a comment, right? So,
I hope she does.
All right, here we go. Hey Kendra,
Yes.
as an educator now, who is Dr. Kendra Washington Bass?
Wow. Okay, so with that bio, so I'll just say this too. Please, I think you can go with the bios for this conversation, because those bios is the book, right? Those bios sort of take us to the book. So who is Kendra Washington Bass as an educator? I am the 6th great-granddaughter of Yella Sarah. Yella Sarah was an enslaved woman who lived on the Berkeley Plantation in Chester, Virginia, right outside of Richmond. The interesting fact about her, outside of the fact that she was enslaved, is that she was the sister to William Henry Harrison, who's the 9th president of the United States, and her father was Benjamin Harrison, the signer of the Declaration of Independence. And so I come from that line of resilient, strong women who have fought through thorns and torture and life's journeys to bring me here. And as an educator, that's the passion that I bring to it. I had the privilege of going to, I call it a privilege. I went to Black schools in New York City. I had Black teachers. And when I talk to people about their experiences in school, especially around race, they have very different narratives than I had. It wasn't until later on when I went to college that I experienced overtly racism. And I thought, as an educator, how can I create that experience for students so they're equipped with the skills, the strategy, the navigation tools for the life that people will create for them as educators? And how can I be a disruptor in my own leadership and my own teaching, not to perpetuate some of the systems and structures that prevent students who look like me from thriving? So that's who I am as an educator, and that is the legacy that I am hopefully living out for Yella Sarah.
I love it. That's powerful stuff. And one of the words that you use as I'm always thinking about the audience, and I know I have a young audience because I got people, a lot of APs, a lot of aspiring APs, a lot of new principals. So usually when I'm in these rooms with the folks, I'm typically the OG in the room, the elder, the oldest, right? But I'm thinking about this word you use, disruptor.
Oh yeah, that's Kelly's word. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I won't even say much about it then.
Yeah, that's her.
But that word is so important
Mm-hmm.
that one can lead with the mindset that I'm going to disrupt the status quo, because
For
we
sure.
know definitively that the status quo doesn't work. So are you going to perpetuate it, or
That's
are you
right.
going to disrupt it? And I won't be reckless. You've got to know how to move strategically, because you need to be on the inside.
That's right.
A whole other conversation, which I'm going to turn it back over to my guest now. But but Kelly, as an educator, who is Kelly Peaks Horner?
So I'm not going to go down the ancestors route, because Kendra and I have this conversation all the time. I'm still looking for those, and then I'm also looking for the ones that I want to declare. So, and I want to claim. So, as a white woman, I won't quite go down that path. But when we were writing this book, we wrote our origin stories at least 6 times, over and over again. And in doing that is where I think that identity always existed. I just needed to find it, and I needed to claim it, and I needed to know what it was. And so growing up, I've always found myself in the position as the peacekeeper. That didn't always serve me. And in some cases, it did serve me. And as I became more aware of what that meant, I would always describe my role as an educator as really more of a justice warrior, that I see education through the eyes of justice, whether that's for students, parents, community. At one point in my career, I was the association president. And so a lot of what I did was bring justice to the work. And as you just said, the structure of the work, the systems within the work. And then moving out of that, came to become a consultant with an education company where it was the same thing. It was looking at systems and education through the eyes of justice. And then we arrived to today with this book, with our actually subtitle being, justice for women educators. And so it's about what is that lens of justice, and creating systems within the education world that everyone can thrive. In this conversation, we're talking about women, but that everybody can thrive. So I would say the greatest definition of me as an educator is a justice warrior.
Justice warrior. In that word warrior, that's one of my words. And I guess it's got so many different connotations. But when I think about it, it's somebody that's on the front lines.
Yes.
And you're a fighter, and you're not going to allow things to just be as they are, as they adversely impact the people you're fighting for. You're fighting to bring about this change. You're advocating to bring about this change. I asked the audience out there, which I rather call my family out here, my AP and New Principals Academy family out here, are you a justice warrior? Are you a leadership warrior? Those of you who are not yet in leadership, will you be that leadership warrior? Will the youngsters be able to look back on you and say, I see that you fought for me, when they don't know it in real time right now, but they see it later on? I see it. I see what you did for me. Let's keep going. Dr. Washington, Kendra, your present role. What do you do right now? And why does that role matter to you?
Okay, so just to be clear, I'm also of Caribbean descent, so I got multiple jobs. So my current work is with the Leadership Academy. I work with Mary Rice Booth, who you had on this show previously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's my sister warrior in this work. So that is what I do, and through that work and with other opportunities, I am leveraging all that I've learned through. It will be 30 years in education next year. I can't believe it.
Wow.
I don't feel that old, but I am a little old. But 30 years of doing the work, I think that you just described, sort of frontline work, being the voice to those whose voices have been diminished. And while I have a job and I have this work I do with Kelly, it's my life's work. It is how I have been taught by the fantastic women in my life. I give all credit to the legacy, as I said before, but my grandmother, my mother specifically, these are people who taught me to be brave and taught me to speak. They also taught me how to navigate this world as Black woman, right? They also taught me that we use the term, I'll just say this, we use the term like Black don't crack. And I always laugh when people say that term. And I think if you only knew what was inside, if you only could see what's below the skin, the scars that we are walking with, right? The stripes on my back, the things, and yet still forging ahead. So my work is deeply ingrained in who I am. My work is deeply ingrained in my spiritual being, that this is bigger than me. This is bigger than me. And I really have, with my work with Kelly, really have zeroed in on supporting women and women who look like me, because I've seen the blueprint of how it's happened. I've been part of that, and I've watched it unfold for many women of color as they are trying to lead schools or be teacher leaders in their buildings, and hearing the noise in the background about, well, if they need a little more time, or they just a little too loud, or they're just a little too Black, or they're just a little bit too this. And how we have sort of, I'll just say for myself, because I don't want to generalize, so excuse me for that. I have tried to navigate that world, and there's some cases where I have sold my soul for it, where I've gone small, where I've done something to my hair, or I've dressed the part. And so my passion is, if I can be who I am unapologetically, even though I'm going to get the stones thrown, I'd rather that than losing myself, than being unrecognizable. And Kelly and I talk about this all the time. There was a point in my career when I looked in the mirror and I did not know who that person was. The quick anecdote to this is, there was this picture that my husband had on the side of his nightstand in our bedroom. And I think it was maybe a couple of months ago. And I looked at that picture and I was like, who the heck is that? Who is that dressed up as this pretend leadership profile that didn't even look like me? And I physically ripped it up. I mean, I just tore it. And I was like, I ever want to see that person again. It just elicited so many emotions about what I was doing to myself to feel accepted, to feel worthy, to feel like people can think that I can lead. And yeah, I can say that in retrospect. So I make no judgment to people who are in the middle, in the thick of some serious, heavy navigation. But there is there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way for you to still be you and not have to compromise at a cost. But which one would you rather lose? Yourself in service to somebody else who is never going to see you and accept you? Or are you going to live into your own values and make your own way and do what is best for yourself and the people that you serve? So that's who I am. That's my role. My day job helps me to live in that. I feel like working in the Leadership Academy, I can be me, right? I can show up as I show up. It's the values that the organization has, but I also am not going to compromise. So if I'm going to show up to any job, like this is what you're going to get, right? You might get some split infinitives. I might use some slang language. My hair will be different tomorrow, right? It might be braids today. It might be an afro tomorrow, right? I'm going to be who I'm going to be. That doesn't take away, I'm still smart, intelligent, but I just want to be comfortable in my skin and do it in the passionate way that makes me bring the joy that Kelly talks about. So that's probably the long-winded.
No, it's not. It's
Yeah.
not. No, it's not long-winded at all. It's why we got this platform. This is the kind of content that I need. We can talk instructional leadership anytime. We can talk about.
Yeah, sure.
We can talk about all those necessities of being an effective school leader, but there's some other things
Right.
that are less talked about. And I mean, this is, if I can just interject before I go to you, Kelly, I dealt with the same thing. I wasn't born with this name. I wasn't born Baruti Kwame Kafele. I reached the point where I said, I need a name that speaks to who I am historically. I left Aaron Jones up here. It's my buddy.
I love Aaron. I love her.
Milton sister. And I left her up here because of what she wrote, particularly that first part.
Yeah.
Because she got that big.
That's right. Red afro.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah. And so we all, many of us, we come to these times of reckoning, and I had to change it. And then I'm not going to get all into specifics because it's not my show today, but even in the midst of the pandemic, I did some shifting, because I wasn't on the road. So I was home for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was able to process some things that I could not process when I was in and out of airport. So now I'm home and I'm like, all right, there's certain things I can't do. Wearing these Negro League shirts was a part of that. Because I mean, I don't know if it turns anybody off. I don't know, right? I don't care.
No, not us.
I made a decision with the very first session number 1. I'm repping these ball players that were excluded from major leagues because they were born Black. Regardless of talent. No, we've never seen 800 home runs before. We only saw it in the Negro League with Josh Gibson, right?
That's right.
So I said, I'm going to rock these things as long as I'm doing this platform, and I don't see myself ever stopping this platform because I don't see that it will ever be obsolete, right? It'll always be a need. So that and so many other things. But I want to go to Kelly. Kelly, same question. What do you do now, and why does it even matter?
So, what I do now has been a process, right? So, I started out as an elementary teacher, was on the track to becoming an assistant principal, took a little different road, and became a teacher association president. Then I went into HR, all in the same school district. And then I was recruited to work for a company, the Gallup organization, and I was in their education practice, right, for almost 17 years. I loved that work because I got to go into school districts all over the country and figure out and talk to leaders about what don't you know? What do you need to know? We've got some things that'll help. That's actually how Kendra and I started our relationship, our friendship, 14 years ago, Kendra? I think it's been.
Yeah.
And I love that work. But in the book, you'll see that the culture inside didn't allow me to do that work anymore. I didn't realize a lot of what was happening at the time because I wasn't quite, and I'm going to use this word because I think we need to take it back. I wasn't quite awoke enough. I was not quite awakened enough in order to understand what was happening internally inside. And so I left there. It was the first time since I was in, my husband and I had this conversation yesterday. It was the first time since I was in 8th grade I didn't have a job. And so I started my own journey around who am I? What do I want to do? Of course, like all of us, I panicked over finances, applied for everything, interviewed for everything, turned everything down because it wasn't what I wanted. It just didn't feel right. And then I got this opportunity. Then someone said to me, asked me this question. He said, what were your best days when you were at Gallup? And I said, my best days were sitting with school leaders without an agenda and just talking and figuring out what do you want to do? That warrior inside them, where do you want to disrupt and make things better for students, for staff, for teachers, for everyone? And we would just whiteboard and think and dream. I want to do more of that. And so this person said to me, then do it. Start your own thing. Do it. So I started Horner Education Consulting Group. And in that, I do a lot of that. I love the one-on-one coaching with school leaders, primarily women I work with. But I have been coaching a couple of men as well. Was trained in the courageous lead skill sets. And I approached all that still through I would just say this way, I approached it through a white lens of my own experience, right? So I would get up there and say, I would have a Zoom room full of women teaching courageous leadership. And I'd say things like, just, you need to be vulnerable. Just be vulnerable. You can't get to courage without vulnerability. You can't get to, and I remember I was working, this was a pivotal moment for me. I was working with an HBCU in Maryland, and I had 65 faculty members in front of me. And here I am, one of the only probably 2 or 3 white women in the room. And I'm up there going, just be vulnerable. And finally, there was a Black man that raised his hand and said, I'm really uncomfortable. He said, I'm having a hard time with this word vulnerability. And he said to me, in my whole life, being vulnerable was literally and figuratively beaten out of me, because if I was vulnerable, it meant danger for me. In that moment, I knew I needed to be someone else in front of not just these folks, but everyone. And so I had to take my own step back. And just like you said, the shutdown that we all experienced during the pandemic was pivotal for me and for Kendra and us together. And on top of that, us witnessing the murder of a Black man in Minnesota. All of that was pivotal. And I knew I had to go on my own journey first before I got up in front of people again. I needed to deconstruct the internalized racism that I had inside of me. I needed to do some of my own learning. I needed to figure out and now when I teach and when I facilitate and when I talk to educators, I start with leaders. Here's my philosophy around professional development. 1, we make a mistake when we say, here's all the skill sets you need. Now go be that thing. I can give you everything you need in 8 hours. Now go be that thing. We need time to, it's called a leadership practice for a reason. We need time to practice. We need time to mess up, but we also need to have a process that when we mess up, how do we get back up and rise again? And the other thing that, and Kendra has helped me, our sisterhood together she's helped me realize, is you cannot teach professional development without it being intersectional. I can't stand up and say, be vulnerable, be courageous. And I've never experienced having to navigate, and Kendra, I'm going to use your words, navigate the in-between when I walk into a meeting. I've never had to experience that. I don't know what that is. I've never experienced feeling a lot of the microaggressions that I've never, so I have to teach in a way that I understand there are people in my programs, in my cohorts, that I don't have their experiences, and I've got to create a space. And I don't use the word brave. I don't use the word safe space because I don't think we can promise that. but I can create a brave space that we can bring those things forward. And we don't hide language. You know, we talk about privilege, we talk about white supremacy culture, we talk about racism within systems, we talk about all of that. So so in a very, probably the last 5 years, I've made this huge transition in how I lead and how I do my work. And the other thing, I think the work that I do with courageous leadership in particular, and this book, is fill in the voids. There's so many voids.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons Kendra and I wrote this book is because women are gathering everywhere, right? We're gathering. We're having conferences. We are mentoring each other. We're coaching each other. We're networking with each other. But guess what? Look at the numbers. The numbers aren't moving with women who are moving into, and they're getting worse, actually. In some cases, the numbers aren't moving. And we use the word thriving, but we not only want more women leading schools and school districts, but we want them to be able to stay there and thrive. And that means we have to disrupt the culture. So again, that was a lot, but but I think I had to explain that transition from, you know, I used to approach my work with a very one-sided lens and with my own lived experience. And I had to go through what I went through in order to get to where I am today. And it's very, very different.
You know, you said a lot, and I just want to pinpoint this one thing, and that's why I left Kimberly Wilson Daniels' comment here: brave space. Because I use that language of safe space, but when I say it, I'm cringing on the inside.
Yeah.
Because I truly think I mean, this is just me, and it may be perceived differently by different people, but my real safe space.
Right.
And once I'm outside of this house, I don't know that any space that I'm in is a completely safe space. You know, we're in a room having a powwow with some people I know, but I don't know that I can be my true authentic self and know that space is safe for me to be that guy. That what I say here that may be something I don't necessarily say publicly will stay in that room. Because I mean, quite frankly, someone could be fascinated by something I said, but it was meant to be remain in that room. But you were so fascinated or inspired by it, you took it outside the room.
Yes.
Unintentional in terms of hurting me, but it could hurt, right?
Yes.
So I'm saying I like that language. It's because it's boiling down to, well, am I brave enough? Do I have the audacity to just go on and have this real conversation and not necessarily have to worry about the consequence because because I'm brave in having the conversation in the first place, you know? So that's, I really like that. I do. You know, I want to read something from the back cover of this book. You know, of course, there's a great content inside, but this really caught my attention. It summarized a lot of what would be longer in the book. So let me read the top half of the back of the book here, and then I want to stay with you, Kelly, on a few things, and I'm gonna go to Kendra for a whole lot of things, and we kind of roll that way. You said women make up more than 80% of teachers in education. This is the two of you, back cover.
Yeah.
Women make up more than 80% of teachers in the education field, yet less than 33% of them are in district leadership positions such as executive directors and school superintendents. And these numbers are dismal for women of color, with only 5% of Black women in leadership positions. Traditionally, and that's district level, traditionally, women were relegated to classroom positions in quasi-leadership roles within the school or district offices, with men acquiring leadership positions. We have all heard similar stories of former sports coaches ascending the ranks of leadership to become the school principal and then eventually a superintendent with very little, well, I added the word very, with little teaching experience. Today, these high-level positions continue to be dominated by white males and in school districts predominantly enrolled with Black and Latinx students. Countless policies, unwritten rules, practices, and experiences have paved the way for mistreatment, misogyny, and racism to seep into the educational system and perpetuating a patriarchal environment and closing the door to access and opportunities for women in educational leadership. That's a lot. That's a whole session because there's
Yeah.
so much to dissect there. But
Yep.
I want to say this to you. With the 80% of the total teaching staff, but 33, irrespective of race, in these upper level district leadership positions. So I'm always thinking about the audience. I'm always thinking about the family. So I'm sure there's someone on here right now live, or someone who will watch the video later, and they hear that they maybe knew that, but they're hearing it again today in real time, and it's like, man, but I want to get to that level. So here's my question to you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
What is your advice to that person? Like, I want you to speak to that person because that person is probably on here watching right now. What is your advice to that woman toward making her vision become her reality within these spaces, these white male dominated spaces and places? What do you say to that woman? And
So
by the way, Kelly, real quick, by the way, just for the sake of organization, the way I structured this question, I said I was deliberate when I said that, because when I go to Kendra, I'm gonna say that black woman, right? So
yes, yeah. And this is where I spend probably a lot of my coaching time, is with women who are trying to make that decision. And so the first thing I usually ask is, what are you waiting for? Because women live in this mindset, oftentimes, not all of them, I want to generalize, of scarcity, right? If you look at the data, men will apply for a principalship after becoming an AP faster than women will. Women will say, I need that one more year, maybe 2 more years. I'm not quite ready. Or they will, before even applying to the AP, they'll say, I need to get that other certification. I need to take this class. I need to. And all of that is a mindset of scarcity. I do not use imposter syndrome, because those are words that were created by someone else that were inflicted upon us. So instead, what I use is scarcity. Where are you feeling that scarcity, that you are not enough in this moment right now? If you have all the credentialing, in terms of what they're looking for on paper, you got it. There's also data, and I think this even came out on LinkedIn, that says when a job posting is posted, a woman will wait till she can say yes to about 70% of the requirements of that job before she will apply. Men do it at about 30%. Oh yeah, I got this. I'm breathing. I got a college degree. Yeah, I can do this job. They apply. We still run in our mind, am I enough? And here's what I first would say to that woman who's thinking, you are enough right now as is. You don't need anything else. So and then we have to ask, then what's holding you back? And what's happening in schools, one, we have to, and you said it exactly right. This is a whole nother session. We've got to look at the history of schooling in order to understand what's happening today, right? So women were the caregivers. We were the ones that were supposed to take care of the children. So we were the ones that were supposed to stay in the classroom, not go anywhere else, just take care of the children, because we're caregivers. We fall into what we reference as the caregiver syndrome, right? This is where we are. We have to stay here. So that's part of that history. But the other part is, over time, school districts, and I'm using schooling as a generality, school districts have created a prototype of what leadership should look like. And what women have been doing for decades is hustling to figure out, how do I fit into this prototype? I want to be included. I don't want to be included. I want to belong. I want to be in a system where I can belong, and I can belong authentically as who I am, how I look, how I dress, how I want to show up, all my skills and talents, all my years of experience. So we hustle to try to fit in. And once we're there, too often we maintain that status quo, and we don't allow other women to then come up and say, I don't want to fit in, I want to belong. So there's a whole lot around school boards have to be a part of this conversation. You know, how many times have women applied for high level positions, say superintendencies, and school boards say, yeah, we're going to hire a woman, but we want you to do the job just like that man that just left. And guess what? Society hasn't caught up to what our society, just look at all the data around the pandemic. It was women who left the workforce. It's women who took care of the childcare responsibilities. It was women who set up the education once it pivoted to more home education. So we say, okay, we can do it just like them and be out 6 and 7 nights a week. Or can we say, I can be out 4 nights a week and be as effective, if not more effective? Ask for what you need. We don't ask for what we need. So, you know, that can be another, you know, couple of hours to talk about that. But that's what I would say to them is, are you hustling to fit in? Or are you showing up authentically? What is holding you back? And this is you are worthy and good enough now as is.
I love it. I'm gonna keep it rolling. You know, Kelly, we've heard these expressions. We use these expressions: leading while black, learning while black. Janice Hale wrote the book, driving while black. You know, and we can go on and on. But here's another one I want to throw at you: leading while woman, right? Or leading while a woman. I want you to talk to the men out here who are watching this morning about some of the implications, some of the challenges, some of the obstacles that accompany leading while woman.
Is that for me?
That's for you, Kelly.
So let me acknowledge that there are men leaders in schools and education that are stepping up to try to mentor or coach women to move up. But the question I would ask is, are you mentoring them to be a woman leader? Or are you mentoring them to be a leader just like you? So in that process, what are you learning from that woman that you're mentoring? Are you asking her how she wants to show up? And if it's different than the way you show up, how are you affirming that? So I think that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is we talk about in the book, we talk about patriarchy, we talk about misogyny, we talk about systemic racism, we talk about all that we need to acknowledge that the patriarchy doesn't just hurt women, it hurts men as well. You know, the patriarchy is why men are oftentimes afraid to take sick leave or when they're sick, or take their turn to take their kids, because they're not babysitting their kids, right? They're raising their kids to the doctor, or because it's perceived as weak, or it's perceived as, you know, why isn't your partner doing that? So we have to acknowledge that the patriarchy not only hurts women, but it hurts men as well. And so for the men out there, I hope they read this book. I hope to just gain an understanding, if nothing else, Kendra and I tell our stories, to gain an understanding of what we experience in our story, but also to think about, where can you step aside and let a woman lead? If you are offered and there's a woman who you know is more qualified than you, are you willing to say, no, not me, it should be her? And that would be brave and courageous. You know, that's choosing courage over comfort, but that's what we're asking. And when we say disrupt, that's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about, we're not just talking about meet with us once a month and coach us and mentor us. No, where are you willing to step aside and allow us to lead, allow our voices to be heard? And the hardest would be, if you're the one that's picked, but you know there's a woman that also is more qualified, are you willing to step aside? So that's just
beat a matador. Just here you go.
Yes.
Her.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a very powerful question. Am I willing to step aside? You know, there's a question before I go to you, Kendra. There's a question that I've been asking for many years, and the question resonated with me so much that I wrote a book about it, and the title is the same question: Is my school a better school because I
Yeah.
lead?
Mhm.
And you know,
Yeah.
with that question, and there's our buddy Ken Williams. I wrote him.
Oh,
He
yes.
called me texting. I was texting him, and
Oh,
I said, Kendra's on. Tune in, right?
Yeah. I love it. I can.
Yeah. Good to see you, good brother. You know,
Love it.
and with that question, you know, we get into a lot of conversation around the question: Is my school a better school because I lead it? And I say to folks, I say, well, if your answer is no, if you have reached the conclusion that someone else, and this I'm saying this because of what you just said, Kelly, if you've
Mhm.
reached the conclusion that someone else can lead your school more effectively than you can, and you say you love children,
Right.
then why are
That's
you
it.
staying there? Why, if you really love these children in this community, and you know there's someone who could lead them
That's right.
to a level that you cannot, then why are you staying in that position? So for me, because it's not to have the people in the room to vacate their jobs, it's a question of confidence. So I'm
Yeah.
saying you have to have not the cockiness, but the confidence that if I'm not at that level that I want to be, that I'm going to do everything I need to do, that I must do. I'm certainly going to read Ruthless Equity, right?
That's
So
right. Ken. Good
Ken
plug.
Williams in the building, right? So I'm certainly going to do the things I must do in order to get to that level, as opposed to, well, it's them, it's not me, right? But
Right.
I got to better answer that question with confidence, but knowing I'm going to do everything within my power to grow and grow and grow to be the best version of myself in this business. I just wanted to throw that in there because I love what you said about is the willingness there to step aside, right? And we know that it's
yep.
probably not, right? So,
Mhm.
Kendra, you know,
Yes.
I'm along the same lines, but now we're talking about women of color, Black women comprising about 5% of the upper level leadership positions in a school district. So, I want to set it up the same way I did before. That woman that wants to be in that director's position, that assistant superintendent position, that cabinet position, that superintendent position, chances are very good she's watching right now, or
Mhm.
she'll watch the video later on, and she'll probably say that resonated with me because I want to get there. But wow, 5%. Is there any space for me there? So here you are, such a strong, staunch advocate and fighter for women, and in this regard, Black women, women of color. So I ask you, what is your advice for that young woman that may be sitting here watching right now, that may even feel discouraged when she heard the percentage 5%? Like, maybe I'm not
Mhm.
going to get the position. What do you say to her, Kendra, in terms of
Yeah.
advice?
So one, I would validate that those feelings, the idea that this might be difficult is true. So let me just validate that the experience, again, the emotions around this is real. You know, what I don't want to do is say, oh, just forget about it and just go straight ahead, right? This is the part where, I mean, as a young girl, I was trained, taught to see differently, right? To see multiple things that are happening and multiple meanings in the space. So I want to validate that women of color, and I can talk about my experience as a Black woman, have this keen awareness that we are navigating what I call the between, right? The too much of this, not enough of that, you
Mm.
know, show up like this, but not too much like that. Sort of just straddling in this multiple identity. It gives us the skill set that some people just don't have. That intersectionality gives us these superpowers that if we use them really well, helps us to get at what we want. So chameleons of sorts. But to that woman who is saying, I want to apply for that assistant superintendent job, that principal job, I say apply, but also build a coalition of people around you that not only support you, become co-conspirators to Bettina Love's word, right? They're the ones who not only can speak to your genius, but are to willing to take the hits for you so you don't have to take them. I think you also have to think about the environment that and the culture you want to be in. I also think about what can you build? If it's not there for you, can you build it yourself? Can you create it yourself? Right? This is the genius I'm talking about that women of color have navigated. And I think we don't give ourselves sometimes the credit because we're so damn tired. We're tired. But imagine taking that energy to build what we want, to create the school that we've always imagined. If we can't do that, build that coalition of women and men and allies and co-conspirators to support us going forward. Also, there is power in exacting what you want. So one of the things I have shifted even in my own leadership, as I was navigating some challenges in my own career, is I began to articulate up front what I wanted, how I wanted it, and what it meant. For example, when I was asked to do something on a Friday at 4:00 p.m. because there was a presentation on Monday, in sort of previous Kendra, who was just like, I'll just do anything just so you can feel like I'm good. She would just say, sure, okay. And then I would work during the weekend. My husband would be like, y'all, you working again? My kids would be like, Mom, why we can't go somewhere? I would do all of that stuff, the hustle that Kelly talked about. And I changed that through my own identity rehabilitation, I call it, to be very upfront. And I would say back, are you suggesting that I utilize my weekend, my personal time to do this work for Monday? I just want to be clear what you're actually asking. So that's number one. Then I would say, what are you going to do too? Because what was happening was I was doing a lot of work. And then I was bringing a lot to the table. And then that work was just being used wholesale. So my question is, so what are you going to do? What's your part as well? Right? So I could see to what degree we doing this together. And then I started sort of managing the way that I was going to be treated. I started to say straight up front, what I'm about to say to you is the truth. And I'm saying it with passion and authenticity. Like I just say it straight up front. What I'm about to share with you or what I'm about to express is the following. And I'm expressing it this way because it's almost like I had to take my inner thoughts and say them out loud to preempt what people would want to think or project onto me. Now, some people might say, well, that sounds like a whole bunch of work. Well, I'm managing the expectation up front. I'm telling you exactly what I want, how I want it, and how it's going to be delivered. And then I give that person time to process. When I say that person, a male counterpart, a white female counterpart, time to practice. What I don't want them to do is utilize the stereotypical words that have been used. Oh, she's angry. Oh, she has an attitude. Or she's too fat, too quick to answer. Meanwhile, my male counterparts, or even my female white counterparts, they're geniuses, right? They're decisive. They're confident, right? And so I just put that straight out up front. And when people did not honor that, that's when I knew it was time for me not to be in that environment any longer. It didn't serve me. I was serving it and getting nothing in return. And I was not able to express my genius. So there are very hard choices that women of color Black women specifically, have to make when making those decisions relative to getting that position. But I do think that one of the ways that gives us the empowerment is to absolutely say up front, what is it that we want? To get a coalition of people who are going to support you, and support you not by saying, go get them, like support you with making the recommendation, talking to the people who have decision-making power, and putting yourself out there and say, this Kendra is the person who should have this position. Kendra is the most qualified, well-equipped person to do this. And I co-sign on it every day. And if you choose not to, then I choose not to work for this organization. They have to put themselves out there to that degree. Or I think we also have to make the decision to walk away from something that's not serving us and create something else. That's bold. People may not be ready for that in their lives and their careers at this point. That's okay. No judgment on what you have to do in the moment, but what do you gain from not doing it, and what do you lose? And my personal experience is I started to basically give my soul away for something that wasn't serving me, to the point where I became unrecognizable to myself. And I started to get angry. I started to be depressed. I started to not be a good wife, not be a good mother, not be a good friend. I lost myself. And it wasn't until, a jolt, a chance happening, right? And Kelly is a big part of that journey and that intersection of our lives crossing, where I got the brave decision to begin unwrapping. That's the point of the book, to begin to peel off layers of everything that I was putting on for the sake of somebody else's idea of who I am. And in the end, one, I am much more joyful. I am still, I'll just say this, Kafele. There's still points where I slip back into the old me. It never goes away, right? The self-doubt, the little voice in the head that goes, maybe you shouldn't write this book. What happens when you start telling it and people know maybe it's about that person or whatever? Or you shouldn't say that word, or use gendered racism or misogyny and patriarchy, because they're going to come for you. Well, they were coming for me anyway. When I was even pretending to be Kendra, right? It's like, so, but I was losing myself. So to my sisters, what do you gain by staying and hustling the way that Kelly described it? What are you losing? Which one are you willing to fight for? And for me, it got to the point where I fought for myself to be who I am as I show up. And it is working. Like, it's working for me. I am happier in my space. I'm enjoying working with the women and listening to their stories and helping them think about, helping them unwrap and peeling those layers off, and seeing them take very bold and brave steps to finally put themselves first in service to their kids. The last thing I'll say too is, how do you want to model for your students how to show up? We know that our kids are desperately fighting to belong in our schools. They want to be who they are. They want to show up how they are. They want to identify how they are. And if we as leaders can't do that for ourselves, what we're doing is perpetuating the system that wasn't built for them in the first place. We're just being a cog in the wheel of the system, and we wonder why students are not achieving. We wonder why students are failing. We wonder why schools are in school to prison pipelines. Well, 1653, the first school opened up. It was a white school, Boston Latin, in Boston, for white male students to go to Harvard. That's the blueprint for the education system we have today. And if we continue to be in the cog and perpetuate that ideology of what school is to be, because we are faithful to show up who we are. We're just saying to the kids, you need to fit into a white male system that was built, I think I said 53, that was built in 1635. And I no longer contribute to that. I can't. I have black sons. I'm a black mother with 2 black sons.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Kendra, you said a lot. And as I was processing, I try, when a guest comes on and gets that heavy and that thorough, I try not to look at the comments because it's resonating with the people. But I'm almost forced to look at the comments because they're writing so like this thing just went on this uptick. So I was looking, but I was focused, and as I was processing, this is where I'm going. I said to myself, everything you just said transcends this education space. Because when you talk about telling somebody what you want, I couldn't help but think about relationships. Mm-hmm. I couldn't help but think about friendships. Yeah. Right. But a lot of times, we got that friendship, but if that friendship doesn't meet our needs as a friend, it may have been a great friendship 10 years ago, but we may have, but we're growing and we're evolving and we're shifting and we're changing and we got different experiences and so forth. And is that friendship still fulfilling as it was years ago, as it was last year? And that's where you come in with everything you said about the communication and what your needs are, what your wants are out of that friendship. But then I'm thinking about, and I don't want to turn this into a relationship thing, but I'm thinking about the relationship and all the fighting and the arguing and the bickering, as opposed to, but this is what I need. Right. I'm trying to meet your needs, but I got needs. Right. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have the conversation, then we at odds with one another. Right. And now the relationship is toxic. Right. So I love everything that you said. And I know that folks did, because the comments, they're still coming. Right. So let me I want to stay with you, Kendra, for a minute. You were a principal. I was. Yeah, you were a principal. And without getting into specificity of district and all that, I'm gonna let you, you handle this however you see best fit. Talk to us about being a principal, a Black principal, a Black woman principal. What are some of those challenges, those obstacles that a Black woman faces in a school, not just from white staff, but from Black staff, perhaps, right? What is that? And because I'm feeling like somebody's energy through my camera, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm going here. So, in addition to what are some of those things, Kendra, here's the real question: how do I navigate it and still lead effectively and be able to take those children to the promised land? I know I asked.
No, this is good. This is now authentic Kendra being vulnerable about this space. So I was a principal in New York City. And what I know now and who I am now would have been a much better principal then. Holy smokes. Because Kendra in 2002, as a leader, was in hustle mode. I remember sort of designing my school for students at the time. I was a middle school principal for students initially. So there was an interesting duality. And as I sort of deconstructed now, because I could see it, I wanted my students to feel proud of who they were. And I also wanted my students to compete in white spaces. So while my school was dressed Black, the way I lead was for them to be accepted by white people. That's why I say I'm about to go real strong. And I remember here's a fact about my school. The homerooms were Ivy Leagues. They were Harvard and Princeton and Yale and Brown. There was not one HBCU sign in my school. I remember having a conversation with a parent, and I wrote this in the book, who said to me, "You trying to make our kids white?" And I was offended. I was just like, I was born and raised in Harlem. I'm a New Yorker. This is my community. This is my school. What do you say? Because I want them to be good, and not even recognizing in that moment the racial and social conditioning that was seeped into my DNA, that I couldn't even recognize what she really was challenging me around. I could see it now, but 2002, Kendra, was in hustle phase, right? I graduated from a white college. I went to the University of Notre Dame, and I thought I knew everything, right? My kids are going to go to something like that, right? And so I created that space, and I was met with lots of opposition around that tone, because they could see it too. So I think what I know now and what I would do differently for leaders of color working in schools is to do your own unwrapping. I'm going to use the term, not a shameless plug. I'm doing it. Understand your social conditioning, because that is what is going to prompt you to lead in the way that you lead. And that is going to be extremely hard and difficult and hurtful. And so in the book, I apologize to my students. Like, I apologize to them profusely for not being who they needed me to be. Was my school successful by maybe the standards that New York City Board of Ed has with the report card? Yeah, on the surface it was. Deeply, was it successful because I let it? No, because I could have done things so much differently to enrich their lives. I would have known. I would have really dealt in Zaretta Hammond's book, right? I would have used those tenets of Gloria Latson Billings. Like, I didn't even know to do that. That's the other issue too, Baruti Kafele.
Yeah.
When we look at leadership pipelines, that's why I know it differently now. When we look at leadership training, like what you're doing, quite frankly, what you're giving away for free to our people does not happen in universities, does not happen in districts. We don't talk about the real stuff of leadership. And to kind of close out what you asked, for sisters and brothers who are leading these schools and that push you're going to get, you have to do your own work on yourself, and you have to decide, to your question, are you leading in a way that's best for the kids that you are leading, specifically our Black and brown kids?
Yeah.
What are you teaching them? How are you teaching them? Who's in front of them that's teaching them? We tend to throw new folks in there, no experience, because we need a warm body. We're not holding people accountable for working with our kids, fiercely fighting for them every day. Look, I made the mistake. I had to get a teacher in there, and then I spent time trying to get rid of the teacher, right? Like, make rookie move for sure. But how do you go in as a brand new principal, a brand new assistant principal, and not make that mistake, right? And what is non-negotiable for our Black kids, our Black boys who are systematically undertaught? I don't want to say they're underperforming, because it's a result of the teaching. They're undertaught, they're under-recognized, they're undervalued, and there you don't get their genius, because they can do all the work. They do it on YouTube University and do it despite us and still become successful. How can we be part of and contribute to that? And as Black leaders, we have to wrestle with that. we also have to wrestle with the history of how Black communities commune, right? Our work is not done singularly, yet we perpetuate a very individualized ideology, which is a white dominant culture ideology. Perfectionism, individualism, that's not who we are. When we look at our systems, going back to the roots of our legacy in parts of Africa and the Caribbean, it's communal, right? So all of this, I don't want parents to come in. No, families, community centers, the way we do our work, it's shared. It's shared leadership, right? And it sounds like, oh, these are just things we already know, but we don't practice it because our mindset and our mental model is to emulate the initial public school structure that was built in 1635. Yeah. So yes, we have to sort of tear away those things, and we have to be clear about our own history, our own social conditioning, in order to be able to serve the students in our care with what they deserve under our leadership. And I as a principal, I missed that. I would love to do a redo, right? And I apologize to my students. And that was a hard part of the book to write, about searching for my truth and understanding my role and not making that happen for my students.
You know, that resonated with me, and that last point you made, which you were reinforcing from what you said earlier. And I'm sure it resonated for a lot of folks who are on the call. Let me just go back through it real quick. Here we're trying to meet these benchmarks. There's pressure on us to meet these benchmarks. We all know, every one of us in the building know that meeting those benchmarks is not the totality nor the true essence of education. But if we want to keep these jobs in leadership, we know we got to meet those benchmarks. Yeah, we got the great robotics program. Yeah, we got the great AI program now. Yeah, we got the great public speaking program, and we can go on and on. The great engineering program, but we didn't meet those benchmarks. So nobody cares about that now. So now we got to figure this whole thing out. So now here I'm looking at kids here. Yeah, we meeting benchmarks. We're exceeding benchmarks. But in my heart of hearts, I know that there's so much lacking that now I feel the same way that you did, that I feel like I need to apologize because we put so much energy into raising test scores as opposed to giving them a world-class quality, high quality education. So that matters, right? So what I want to do moving forward, Kelly, I got a lot to throw at you. But while Kendra's in this groove, let me stay with her for a minute, and then I'm gonna come back to you, Kelly. But before I even do that, first, folks, Unwrapped is the book. Let me just get rid of that first. Give me a little more space. Unwrapped is the book, The Pursuit of Justice for Women Educators. You can go to Amazon right now and get your hands on it, because they're not going to share all of this, y'all. Right?
That's right. So, there's a fee for that.
Yeah. So get your hands on it, Amazon. Let's take it to number one. Get your hands on it. And as I always say, I should have done this a half hour ago, but we here now. The assistant principal AP and New Principals Academy is sponsored by.
Go on now.
The assistant principal identity, protecting your leadership mindset, fervor, and authenticity. So while you get this book, get this one.
That too. Get the pair.
Yeah.
Yeah. No discount either.
That's right.
Pay us our worth.
That's right. Yeah, because some of the clients, like,
those days are over.
Can you come 1,000? Can you come 1,000 less?
No.
I'm already discounted by 5,000. You don't realize that, client.
Right.
I'm underpriced, right?
Yes.
So,
that's
boundaries.
Right. That's another meeting.
Yeah, and as my man here, Vincent Stallings, Dr. Vincent Stallings, even if you met the benchmark, they still
they coming for you, right?
Yes.
It's unbelievable, right? It's like, it's a lie. How did you make those kids get that? It's like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on. You can't win for losing. So you might as well go all in and do the darn thing, because they're gonna come for you anyway. Come for you. Let them come for you on your own terms.
They're coming. So Kendra, I want to stay with you. Because
Okay.
you said some things and I was going in a certain sequence, but I said, no, I got to stay here now.
Mhm.
You and I'm considering who's watching right now. By the way, y'all, hit the share button, hit the retweet button, hit the repost button, tag somebody, share, and
That's right.
hit the like button. Let them algorithms. Some of y'all don't understand them algorithms.
That's right.
That like button, man. You got to manipulate them things. So even if you
That's
don't
right.
like it anyway.
That's
And that makes the algorithms work and tells people, oh, there's something happening over at the
Yep.
AP.
right. That's trend.
Let me go over there and see what they're talking about, right? So
That's
hit that
right.
like button for me, y'all. Kendra, the experience of working on a PhD as a Black mother. So you see, I read the book as a Black mother, a Black wife. That is that it can be. I'll say I won't speak in broad terms, but it can be a very different experience for a Black husband, male or father, right?
Yeah.
So there's a mother. I feel the energy coming through my camera. There's a mother on here. There's a Black woman on here right now who happens to be a mom, who happens to be a wife, but she's writing a dissertation.
Mm.
And it's a struggle because I know I need to be mommy. I know I need to be wifey, but I'm trying to get this goal, this dream, this passion, this ambition. I'm trying to get this thing done, right? So, I'm not going to ask you to go into that specificity you wrote in the book, unless you just want to. But what I do want to ask you is, talk to us about those trials and tribulations of being that Black mom, that Black educator, that Black wife, and trying to complete a PhD and write a dissertation. Talk to us about some of those challenges and what advice might you give that mom who's watching right now that perked right up and said, "Oh, I was waiting for that question," right?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. And I think Kelly can also probably attest, because she started her dissertation journey too, and put it on pause. So the way that I will describe it is, again, back to sort of social conditioning and mentorship. So I wasn't really thinking about getting my PhD until I started working in Georgia, when I left New York and worked in Georgia.
Okay.
And the reason why I actually went that route was because it was a way to solidify my value in upper echelon leadership. It was like, okay, Kendra, if you do this, you'll have these doors open to you, or it will allow you to sort of move up in ranks. And so I was like, oh, okay, so that's the culture that I accepted. And I went full steam and was like, all right, I'm going to do that. Secondly, I think too, as a Black woman, the teachings, whether it's from our own families or the culture, right? We always got to do something bigger and better and 2 times harder and all that other stuff. So that was in my head too. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna go to school, but I'm gonna finish this dissertation in 3 years. I am going to write on Monday and Wednesdays and Sundays right after work. And I'm going to do it this way and do it that way. I'm going to get it done. And I remember having this conversation with my husband before we started, saying, this is what I want to do. And I said, in fact, Jason, if I want to, the doors are going to open, if I want to move up in leadership, this is one of the things that sort of culturally the organization is expecting. So I was like, okay. And he said, all right, he trusted me. And I don't think there was a question about whether I should or shouldn't do it until I started doing it. And what I just said to you, I made this promise. I said, within 3 years, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to work these days and do it. And to everyone there, I did it exactly that way. at the expense of my relationship with my husband and my children. At the expense. Yeah, I got a PhD behind it, but y'all, if we had to peel back that layer on how I got it, holy smokes, I would never do that again. I almost lost my husband, and my kids almost didn't recognize their mother, right? I think our relationship was strong enough that we were able to get through that. That's part of that communication. That's part of that therapy. That's part of whatever for us to get through that. But I was so committed to the PhD that I forgot to recommit to my family. And that is, and from my bio, you know, family is extremely important to me. But being educated and in the space that I was in, Principal Kafele, of making sure that I was worthy of hustling, I was still in Kendra hustling identity. That's why I went the route that I went. So what advice would I give? Listen, only a few people complete a dissertation and become a doctorate. It's like whatever, 1% of the people who actually do it finish it. A good dissertation is a done dissertation, and do it on your own terms, not for the sake of your relationships with friends and family. We need relationships. We need social interaction. We need to have, that's the energy that trampolines us out of the doldrums. If we didn't learn that during the shutdown when everyone was sort of alone and isolated, if we didn't take that lesson, then we really truly are doomed. So if you are a mom, if you are a wife, if you're a friend, a daughter, and you're doing this, pace yourself. Be very careful of the noise that can come into your head that says you have to have it done by this time. That now, it also is extremely expensive. So be careful about which school, how they're supporting you. Advocate for what will be best for you to have your well-being intact while doing this. That this goes to telling what it is that you need and want from the university, from your chair, from your spouse, from your children. Do not give your life to the dissertation. It will take it. And then you'll turn around and go to graduation and be like, where's my spouse? And where are my children? And they'll resent you for it, right? So what's your goal around it? Listen, universities will take your money as long as you have it, they won't take it. It's okay, right? But find a community. And the last thing I'll say is, when the thing that also got me through it too is I had a sister circle. There were 5 of us who started the journey together. We all didn't finish at the same time, but we all showed up for each other at different points in times to help us finish. So as quick as I was the first one to finish because I promised the 3 years, but I also had that challenge in my relationship. The other 4 sisters, I stuck with them and we stuck with each other to make sure we finished. We had, we were writing and drinking wine. We were writing and laughing. We had community. We went to each other's homes so that I can still have my family see what it was that I was doing. So I started to incorporate them into the dissertation journey. I started to set, this is near the end, set time limits so that from this hour to this hour is when I spent that time. And I communicated that with my family so they knew that that was the stopping point and I can, work with them. So that's my advice. And that's what I would say. But you got to attend to your well-being, and that comes first.
That's great. That's solid advice. And as I anticipated, it resonated with a lot of people on these 5 platforms commenting on this. Hey, Kelly, I want to read the second part of the back cover real quick, and then I got 3 questions I want to throw at you. It says, our book is a dual story of our personal and professional journeys that have led us to unwrap how we have been conditioned to perpetuate these isms so that we can begin self-discovery, recovery, and eventually create an arena for women educational leaders to build positive and productive educational experiences that lead to equitable access for all students, especially our most marginalized. It's time we stop trying to fit into the prototype of acceptable leadership and leadership practices. Instead, chart our way. It is time to disrupt the traditional way of leadership development and support our administered and ask for what we need and how we need it. We hope that our stories and experiences inspire reflection and action to dismantle the practices that prohibit our talents of leading, and especially the self-diminishing actions that prevent us from fully supporting each other. That back cover was just a strong back cover, and that's why I decided to use the two paragraphs with this conversation today. So just to reiterate a line, Kelly, it says our book is a dual story of our personal and professional journeys that have led to us to unwrap how we have been conditioned to perpetuate the isms. So my question to you, what do you, I guess the two of you in this regard, but the question's for you, Kelly. What do you mean by unwrap how we have been conditioned and therefore perpetuate these isms? What do you say?
Oh gosh, that's a big one. So it would start with, and we've thrown this word out a couple times already. That social conditioning. That's part of our ism, if you will. It's that social conditioning. It's how have we been taught to show up in the world. And we've also thrown out the idea that we need in this journey, we need to do our own work. So our own work starts with, okay, in growing up, what were the messages I was getting? In the order of my family, where did I come and what was my role? I was middle child, right? Middle child, older brother, younger sister. My role was to keep the peace in the family. And you'll read in the book, I did things like remind dad when anniversaries were coming up, because if there wasn't something planned for mom, the peace would be disrupted or interrupted. Make sure there was a Christmas present under the tree from my dad to my mom. You know, he just wasn't a man that thought that way. So I helped him to think that way, and it kept the peace. I learned how to cook at a very early age. Mom always worked, so I made sure that, you know, dinner got started when she went. So it was those little things that seemed like little things. But that social conditioning, I continued throughout my life around keeping the peace. I get to high school, I was that way. I get to college, even though I was working in a lot of kind of justice and social justice issues, I still had this driving need to keep some order and peace around me. I get to work, you know, the work environment. I get to my last job and probably should have left 2 years, 3 years before I did, but I worked so hard to keep the peace, to not disrupt anything, right? So part of that ism comes from, how are we socially conditioned to show up? So that is a personal journey inside around pathways. That's a real personal journey. That's writing your origin story. And we kind of walk you through that a little bit around writing your origin story. And that is don't consider it a beginning and end. It's a lifelong journey because we keep adding to our origin story, our life story. So that's one area I needed to unwrap, because I needed to be able to speak, to show up and ask for what I need, not just in the workplace, not just in the work I do, but in my friendships, in my partnerships, in my family. I was the typical passive aggressive wife for a very long time. You know, when I was angry, you'd know, because I'd slam, you know, cabinets shut, or I, you know, get real quiet, but I'd never give my husband the opportunity to hear from me and give me what I needed. And that was something I took away from him. So I realized that I needed to show up differently there. But I also needed words, because that's part of this, is we need words in order to replace what we knew with something, the way we were socialized, with something new. So that's one piece. I mentioned that during Kendra and I really kind of came together in this work during when we were locked down for the pandemic, and where the I would go beyond the country, but the world was coming into this racial reckoning. So another ism that I needed to unpack for myself is my own internalized racism. That, you know, I would say to you at that time, I'm not a racist, but there was so much, but if you looked at all my Facebook pages, you weren't going to find a person of color. Where I would spend my time, you're not going to find a person of color. So I needed to unpack, what does all that mean? You know, so I started reading the books, right? I started reading all the books, started doing my own work, started asking some questions, started doing a little deeper dive about what does that mean? How can I show up differently? And then when Kendra and I came together, and there's an arc in the book around how we actually came together. And I'll just tell a little bit of it because it's part of this. It's part of this. So Kendra and I would show up on Zoom about once a week or so. And, you know, and here's the way we wrote this book. We had a weekly Zoom meeting. We would spend 55 minutes of the hour talking about everything but the book. And then the last 5 minutes, we would say, oh, you know that chapter? Yeah, you need to add more there. Okay, now you need to talk about, now you need to. So that's kind of how and this went on for 2 years, right? It took us about 2 years to write this book. So me doing a dissertation, hell no. I'm lucky I got through this book, okay? So, and you know this, when you do the first one, people, when's the next one coming out?
Like, nah.
I'm still sleeping off the last one, right? I'm still trying to figure that one out. So, so we came together one day, and she just looked so different in this particular meeting. There was something on her face I could see. Okay, we got to put the book down. Tell me what's going on. And I had gone through a couple of years of my own. What do you call it, Kendra? You usually call self-rehabilitation.
Yeah,
right?
Identity rehabilitation.
Yeah, because I had gone through the toxic culture at work and making some decisions a couple of years prior to when she did. And I asked her, I said, what's going on? And, you know, she talked to me. She just unleashed with me around, I'm tired, as she said before. I'm tired of the black and brown and gray suits that are required of me. I'm tired of having to wear my hair the way, and these are all symbolic, although they are heavy. So I'm tired of having to show up the way others are telling me to show up. I'm tired. I did all the things, and I was passed over. I did all the things. She did all the things. You know, she did the PhD. She's now worthy. Well, no. So so she said to me, I'm really contemplating showing up or going to work tomorrow with my head wrap, with a head wrap. Okay. First, I come to that with a total white lens, right? And I'm like, why is she like really lamenting over wearing a headband? I mean, that was, you know, in my head. I'm like, really? I'm like, this is the big thing, you know, you want to, and I asked her this question. I mean, is this just not, I said, well, is there a policy that prevents you from wearing a head wrap? And she's like, what I felt through the screen was, you aren't getting it. But mostly what I heard was, you aren't listening. So in that moment, I knew I needed to be quiet, and I needed for her to tell her story. And it was about more than just the head wrap, right? It was what people were, it was disrupting. That was going to be a disruptive move in a school culture where that didn't show up. That was not seen. So we talked and we talked and we talked, and I just asked her some more questions. And then she said, I'm going to sleep on it, and I'll let you know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I said, okay, text me a picture of how you're dressed before you go to work. So she texted me this picture, and she had this brightly colored dress on, not navy blue, not gray, not black, but brightly colored dress on, and this gorgeous head wrap. And I just texted her back and said, you're stunning. You're absolutely stunning. And so that became our metaphor for becoming unwrapped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her wearing her head wrap.
Yes.
And me as a white woman, asking the question, why am I talking? Wait, we call it wait. Why am I talking? To listen to my friend, who happens to be my Black friend, that she is going to go through something I've never experienced, and I just need to be here for her, as part of her friend circle, as part of her community. So that moment she showed up, and I love how she says it in the book, where she says she just got the sister nods. No one, they didn't even have to say anything. They knew.
They had no words, just kind of like, you know that.
Yeah. Yeah, she's showing up in Gwinnett County Public Schools with a head wrap on. Really? Really? So that's where that came from. So that's another ism around unwrapping. What can you do? And when we say disrupt, we're not saying go in there and just shake it. We're saying, what are those little things along the way that you can do to say, I'm going to show up a little different. We're going to do this a little differently. I need to ask for what I'm looking for. And I would say this, again, I can't stress enough, especially for the white women on here. You have to start with your own work. When Kendra and I are doing keynotes together, one of the things that I caution especially in front of women, is we are not telling white women, go out and find yourself a Black friend. And we're not telling Black women, go out and find yourself a white friend. White women are not always safe spaces for Black women. And I have to continue to be open to when I don't see something through my own experience that Kendra calls my attention to. And I need to take that in and say, I get it. And we do that. And she does that. Okay, that optic that we did over here, nope, not good. We can't do that again. This can't. So I have to be open to that. And then part of that is this other is, unwrapping these isms would be around unwrapping the ism of individuality and showing up only for ourselves. And in the book, we talk about 3 words: allyship, accomplice, and co-conspirator, right?
Yep.
And thank you, Dr. Bettina Love, for those words. So allyship is where I start that you cannot be an ally till you start doing your own work around this. Allyship starts with your own work. Allyship is, I'm reading the books, I know the words, I can stand next to you. Accomplice is, I want to go a little further, and I might be standing behind you, but I'm saying go, 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 go. Where we really want to get to is co-conspirator, where I, as a white woman, use my privilege that I have to uplift other women, to create a path. And I've seen a lot of comments around, what if it's an environment where I can't speak up, can't do that. White women, the white women are on here, that's part of what we can do as co-conspirators, is help create those paths. If you are in a meeting, and I'll give you just a simple, if you are in a meeting and there's a Black woman, a woman of color in the meeting, and she says something, and 20 minutes later, a white person, usually white male, says something, and now it is just the greatest idea that fell from the sky, we need to say, hold up. She just said that 20 minutes ago. Let's go back to the originator of the idea and unpack that, because that was her idea. And so how do we use, and we need to just take a pause, because we've used this. I talk about privilege all the time, but had I not done my work before, that would hit me very, very different. Mm-hmm. But because of the years of doing that work, Kendra and I have been in spaces where I use the word white privilege, and white women are
clutching pearls.
Clutching pearls. It's a gut punch. It's, what do you mean? What do you mean? I grew up, I didn't have. Here's the bottom line. When you read the book, I've had struggles. Life hasn't always been, a rosy path. But here's the bottom line. None of that happened because of the color of my skin, and systems were not created for me because of the color of my skin as roadblocks. So that's what privilege is. And here's the invitation I give to white women on here. If the word white privilege is a gut punch, start there and ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? What am I feeling? Why does that feel like a gut punch? Why am I taking that so personally? How do I unpack that?
Yeah.
Where do I go from here? And you got to start there. And the other caution I give is don't fall back on the word fragility. We as white people are not fragile, right? We are not fragile. Don't fall back on the word fragility. In fact, I sometimes go as far as to say really white fragility does not exist. It's something that we create for ourselves as armor. So we don't have to take responsibility. So if that word, first of all, ask yourself, where is it resonating with you? And then when it starts to resonate just intellectually in your head, and that's where then you're getting somewhere. But you've got to do your work first before you can show up as a co-conspirator. Otherwise, you can be dangerous to other women, especially women of color. So that's what we mean by unwrapping. You start with yourself.
You dropped the mic. You dropped the mic. You know that, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. That was a mic drop. That was powerful.
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah,
real
absolutely.
quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, about let me go back, Kelly, to that point about the head wrap, because what's interesting is I've heard some people who've sort of given feedback about either the book or what they've heard us say, and some people are missing the point here. The point was not wearing the head wrap per se. Like, it wasn't that my organization forbade head wraps and oh my gosh, and Kendra got mad. Like, you missing it. It is the culture of fear that I can't wear what makes me me. You already know that I am smart, right? I don't want to use a little bit of the help, right? I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm important. You already know that. And the mere fact that I had to wrestle with whether or not I was going to wear something that was Afrocentric, and that I toiled with it to the point of tears and like physical fear, that is what we're talking about in terms of disruption and social conditioning, right? It's what we have sort of allowed for our own safety. It's our flight, it's our amygdala sort of hijacking the way that we want to navigate in the world, and we make decisions and go, I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to just keep suiting her up and straightening my hair and talking a certain way and sitting a certain way and being silent, all to avoid the perceived notion that I might not fit in. And so the head wrap is a symbol of the disruption that Kelly talked about. It is the act of authenticity. It's the act. It is a proclamation. I am here who I want to be, and you can't stop me.
Yep.
And guess what? I walked up those steps and nobody stopped me. Like literally it was like, oh, head nod. Even some white folks was like, I like that thing on your head. You know, it's like, okay. So sometimes the fear is perceived and it's real, right? There's enough history to know that fear is real. And sometimes we attach that fear to every single circumstance and just relinquish our control and go, well, I'm just never going to do it. And that particular day in September, I was like, I'm going to do it. And when I did, I was like, oh, and guess what, Principal Kafele?
What's that?
I started to see more head wraps and braids and afros and natural hair. Dude walked up the steps with a dashiki on. I was like, oh, he had on a dashiki in our public school system, where suits and ties with it just blew my mind. Like,
courage is contagious. Courage is contagious.
It sure is. So you can see Kelly and I, we just this relationship you see is years in the making.
Yeah.
Well, and let me just add one more thing too, is what is our hope and dream for this work besides moving those numbers around women? White women, Black women, and women of color, we do this dance around each other, right? Because places are not safe. There aren't a lot of brave spaces for women of color to show up and fully be themselves. I mean, they have to walk into a room, figure out who's here. Okay, this is the me that needs to be in this room. They go in the next room. This is the me that needs. And what happens is we as white women don't get to fully experience the breadth, the depth, the every part of that. And so we dance around each other because the systems are created that way, and our own, biases are created that way. One of the most beautiful things for me, and I'm telling you, every time Kendra and I get together, one of us cries. So I'm going to try to get through this little part.
Do not cry. Do not cry right now.
So during the pandemic, Kendra's family started a tradition that every Saturday night and Tuesday night at 8:00, they get on Zoom. And about maybe 4 months to our work together, I got invited to family Zoom night. And she said, let's kind of do a little bit of work with them to introduce you and tell them what we're doing. Of course. So then the facilitator head in me went on, and I even created a PowerPoint for family. She was like, oh, no,
she did.
We're not doing a PowerPoint family Zoom night. She said, you know what my 70-some-year-old cousin's going to say when you start pulling up the Zoom? That is not going to happen. So I got invited to family Zoom night, and we talked. And here's what I heard. I heard a family that adores their cousin, their daughter, their niece. And they said things to me like, her name's going first on the book. And I just said, yes, ma'am. And this is they were protecting her because she's doing this work, with a white woman. And and here it's been how many years? 2.5 years. And as often as I can, I'm on family Zoom night on Tuesday. It's me. I'm usually the only white face on the Zoom, and her family. But that is the joy that comes out of this work. Yes, it's a struggle. Yes, it's hard, but I get to experience, and they do not hesitate to talk about white people in that space. And I'm good with that because now I know where it's coming from. And I remember telling someone the first time, guess what? I got invited to Kendra's family Zoom night. And they said this to me. Oh, you got invited to the cookout? Okay, I had never heard that before because, my spaces are mostly white. And I said, oh, no, it's not a cookout. It's a Zoom meeting. It's a Zoom call. They're like, Kelly, can you really? I went, oh, okay. So when it was finally explained to me, I get it. But yes, somebody even just put Kelly's invited to the cookout.
Yeah,
I thought it was. I was waiting for the real cookout, and like, no. But that's kind of another metaphor for what our desire is to create in spaces where we can create it, where women are showing up for each other authentically. Yes. It's a brave space. We're not dancing around each other. So it starts with your own internal work. Who are you? How do you want to show up? What are those isms? Is it misogyny? I've had plenty of that. Is it, from the patriarch? Is it racism? Is it individualism? What is it you need to unpack? And then how do you take that work and start to become an ally, an accomplice, and a co-conspirator?
Woo! Y'all said some stuff, man. Let me holler at the audience real quick. Family. Now, y'all see we've been on here for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I was a little ambitious with the questions. I'm nowhere near done. I don't want to do a part 2, y'all, because I don't have an opening until January or February. So
you always have us back in March during Women's History Month.
Yeah. But I want to get all of this on one video. So so let's hey y'all, it's too hot to be outside, y'all.
That's right. And it's storming in Atlanta. So
it's storming there? It's blazing here. It's supposed to be 90 something. But so y'all and Central already told me before I even said it, my man Central Hicks here. He said this is too deep to be worried about time, and he said because he knows I was going to say this, and I did. But hey y'all, too much good stuff here. I don't want to do a part 2. I just want to get it all in this one video. So Kelly, I want to stay with you here. And y'all be mindful of time too, because see, I've been on the road for 14 days. I got nothing to do, right? So I can literally sit here for 5 hours and it's all good. So y'all be mindful of the time, because I know you're not here for that kind of time. Listen, where am I? Okay. So there's another line on that back cover that got me, and I want to read it verbatim. It says, and this is for Kelly. It is time to disrupt the traditional way of leadership, and we've been talking about this, but you have been. It's time to disrupt the traditional way of leadership development and support. Let me read that again. It's time to disrupt the traditional way leadership development and support are administered, and ask for what we need and how we need it. And you went into that. We got to that before I even asked this question. But I just want to throw the question at you in case there's anything additional. If not, then we move on. I got one more for you in this segment. As you conceptualize this, which I just read, what does that look like? And I know again you both unpacked that, but was there anything else that you wanted to add to it in terms of just what that looks like in terms of asking for what we need and how we need it?
Yeah, I would say just a couple of things. One is we've got to get away from come to this 8-hour training and you're going to get everything you need. Now go be that thing. It needs to be an ongoing. So when I do the courageous leadership skills, most of my cohorts, we meet once a month in what we call a rumble room. And that rumble room is bring your successes, bring your challenges. Let's keep going. Let's continue this conversation around what you need. So that's one. Two, I can't. Facilitators have got to do their own work around intersectionality. It's just, I mean, Kendra and I wear a lot of statement t-shirts together. And we have another one that just says, if it's not intersectional, it's just BS. Right. Yeah. So it's just, so that's another one place. And here's the third one. I have this, and I've had this for a very long time. I think to a certain extent, we've done principals a disservice by beating the drum of them having to be an instructional leader when they don't know how to create a culture, when they don't know how to create conditions for success. So much of education is compliance, policy, standards, practice. I mean, really, does a principal need to know every element of the math instruction in order to create an amazing place for math teachers to thrive and to do their work? How about making them the experts? So I would like to see more of, especially for principals and APs, not so much move away, but that instructional focus, that the first focus needs to be, how do you create a culture? Because what gets them fired? What actually leads to their inability to thrive is they don't know how to create that culture. They don't know what that means. And so if we focus on that first and foremost, that instructional piece in many ways will start to, and I go back on to some surveys we used to do at Gallup on, Gallup used to do the PDK survey every year on the status of education in the United States. And a question we always used to ask was, what do teachers want from their principals? None of them ever said, I want them to know everything about English instruction, science instruction. What they said was, I want them to be a resource for when I ask for help, they know where to go and get me help. Mm-hmm. And so those are just a couple thoughts around professional development.
Love it. I'm gonna go quick, y'all. Kendra, I was gonna just bypass this question, and my soul said you gotta ask it. So I won't bypass it. I'll ask because see, I you guys sent me some talking points. I still didn't get to them yet. Right?
It's okay.
So, yeah, no, it's okay. I want to cover this stuff, but listen, Kendra, you were overlooked for, I didn't know the exact title, but it was, I think it was a leadership development position. And you were passed over by someone that was a mentee of yours who happened to be a white male that you once coached. And when I read it and I formulated this question, I had the audience in mind, as I always do. I'm always thinking about the people who are listening that I don't see, but I see some of the comments, right? So my question to you, that happened. You knew the dynamic of the relationship. and here this person gets this position that you really wanted. And my question is simple. How did you reconcile that, and particularly find internal peace, if you did, within that reality?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Reconcile that internal peace. How did I reconcile that? There was a point. So let me also clarify. So the idea of this opportunity was sort of placed in my head a long time ago.
Yeah.
I really appreciated my work and my relationship with one of my former supervisors, because he had said, I know that this district and this this environment, this education system in general, is not going to look like me. He was a white man. He said, it's going to look like you. Right. And so he was extremely supportive, and he coached, right? He coached through his lens, right? It was the guidance that I took for him to sort of, I followed sort of the formula or the ladder of work, right? Do this, do that, do this, do that. And when it didn't happen, like that's what Kelly and I were just talking about. Like I did all the things. I did all the things that I thought were the things you were supposed to do, because that was the formula that was created to get you there. So I followed it. I wasn't upset that my new supervisor got the job. Not so much that, right? It wasn't him. What I was upset is that I led myself to believe I was different and that it wouldn't happen to me. That was the part that made me angry and sad. And I physically cried, which I usually am not a crier. I physically cried. And I said, oh my word, I thought that it wouldn't happen. I thought that somehow I was immune to the things that I saw happening to other women, other people of color, that I heard comments about. I even coached some folks like, all right, so maybe you navigate this way. And when it didn't happen for them, it's like, ugh, right? But I didn't think, I was cocky to believe that it wouldn't happen to me. That was the point that I had to reconcile that, man, I bamboozled myself, right? It's the hustler mentality. It's the social conditioning. So how did I reconcile that? That's when I started to think about, so you did this, you sold your soul, you assimilated for what? And you're unhappy, right? I thought I would be happy. And even if I would have gotten the job, I probably would have continued to perpetuate a hustler mentality to stay in the know, to stay included, to feel like it belongs. So I don't know how long, eventually that that state of mind and that masking started to crack. And just as you did, Principal Kafele, 2020 gave time for pause and time for reflection. And as I wrestled with the time that I had to think, I began to create these t-shirts. Like I began to have these thoughts in my head that I couldn't necessarily maybe articulate with words or articulate on paper yet. And I was like, I think that t-shirt speaks to what I'm feeling. And so I started T-shirt Statement Saturday, which I do every Saturday. I wear a t-shirt based on how I'm feeling during the week. And then I started creating them based on what I was feeling. So that was part of the, quite frankly, to steal a little bit of AA, the 12-step process for rehabilitation. Was like, all right, first recognize that I had a problem, and the problem was that I conditioned myself to believe that I needed to be this way in order to get something. So I had to admit that. the second part of reconciliation was starting to make some serious bold acts. Some of it was being therapeutic and writing this book and admitting that as a leader for months of my time, that I hoodwinked even my own students or people that I led. And I began sort of apologizing along the way. I mean, literally, it's like the 12-step process. And then the third thing I started to do was make some bold steps and shedding the costume and the mask that I was wearing. Some of it was physical transformation. Other was in the things that I would say and do, where I would put my money and time and effort and energy into doing what I was no longer going to allow and accept. And that's how I sort of reconcile that. I started with apologizing to myself, like giving myself a once over. And then when I did that, what was interesting is I started to know the change, but people started to know that I was different. That I always felt like I was as authentic as I could be. I think definitely holding back. I think people thought that I was pretty much a straight shooter anyway. But I think they started to see that what they're seeing in front of them is vastly different than what they saw a year ago. And I began to demand more things. I began to attend to my well-being a lot more. I mean, I was leaving work at an hour and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this overnight. I'm not doing this, for the sake of somebody else. I'm not doing it. And then eventually, when the culture did not shift, I was no longer willing to contribute to it anymore. I just could not give my time and energy to a space that didn't value who I was. And so I used the law of 2 feet and I left. And I found somewhere else where I can feel valued. And then Kelly and I created the Lucy Leadership Project to create our own space, to build our own arenas where we can be who we are. So that was sort of the advice back to the sisters who are looking for the role, like build that coalition, start from yourself, and build the space that you want to create if it does not exist. So that's how I reconciled it. And I just had to also let it go. Now, did it hurt that, a white male got the job? Yes. And we've seen that playbook before anyway, right? So like again, I think it was my head of going, oh, I thought I was different. I thought it would be different.
Yeah.
And that just led to who you see before you today.
I want to throw one more at you, and then I'm gonna glance at some of those talking points and see if we actually covered them all, because we probably did.
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to throw this at you. And this is coming from the book as well. The expression "strong Black woman"
Oh yes,
has been looked at differently as of late. It's been reassessed, reanalyzed, and you indicated here, and I'm gonna quote you. You said the idea of the strong Black woman is both empowering and destructive, and I've heard that before. I've seen it all over social media, but you added to that, and that the idea of the strong Black woman leader is more complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the rationale in terms of the way we're beginning to now look at strong Black woman in terms of a phrase or an expression. I have no disagreement with it whatsoever. I understand, I get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I still, for the sake of the platform, the academy, and the women who are on the call right now, and those who may be wrestling with it, or quite frankly, never heard the alternate discussion around that, talk to us about what you're saying there.
Yeah. So I will use a term that we use in the book to call the in-between to sort of frame what I mean. So The in-between could be symbolizing what Kimberly Crenshaw calls the intersectionality, right? Paying attention to all the different spaces and identities that women of color occupy. And if you are a woman of color who is also part of the LGBTQ plus IA2 community, you have another intersection that you're working with. So how do you navigate those identities in specific environments and situations leads to the multiple conflicts that can be at play. One being strong Black woman, but we see how strong Black woman has actually been interpreted, for example, in the healthcare system, right? How are we treated when we go for exams or talk about how something hurts, right? Doctors seem to think we can withstand pain, which is why infant mortality rates are the way that they are for women of color. Or we don't get treatment early enough for preventative measures because somehow the idea of strength and pain withholding is steeped into a narrative of who we are, right? So that's one example in the healthcare. When we talk about women in leadership, right, strong Black woman seems to portray itself as this, I'm gonna use a term, this mammy mother figure that's going to take care of it. We watched it happen here in Atlanta with that then Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms when there was unrest in the streets, and she had to come on TV and say, look, folks, I need y'all to go home, right? People saw her in that role, and what she was portraying at that point seemed to be a motherly stance. Now, she's a politician, and she's right. Y'all need to go home, right? Y'all need to get out of the streets, be safe, stop, whatever. But people assigned to her this strong Black woman who is a mother figure in that moment, right? She's mayor named Keisha, right? So that's another example, right? And when we see it happen in schools, we also expect a strong Black woman to also betray that particular role. If we deviate from the stereotype of what that is, then we get to the other side of it, which is angry, which is gossipy, which is all of those other stereotypes that were not good enough. And if we continue to subscribe to it without giving people the definition of what it actually is from where you stand, people subscribe that definition to you and they treat you in that way. So while on the one hand, yes, Black women historically have been the ones that won elections, right? We show up for voting. We show up. There's rarely any documented historical, explicit historical depictions of Black women really being leaders. Another example, Fannie Lou Hamer did much more for the civil rights movement than people give credit for. We go to the Martins and Malcolms and we forget about Coretta and Fannie Lou, right? Who are the women who particularly sort of in the background, but it was Fannie Lou Hamer who started the civil rights movement. It was her. It wasn't even Rosa. It was Fannie Lou Hamer, right? Again, just the idea of women who've been part of politics, but have also had their bodies, Black women had their bodies used and abused to make points, used and abused to shift a narrative, used and abused to pit Black men against Black women. And here we are in leadership, and we carry that history with us. Sometimes we don't even know it. So it goes back to what I said before about being a Black. Know your history. Know the shoulders we're standing on, the legacy that we're standing on, because that either we can perpetuate very bad habits or we can disrupt it enough to be able to share and show a new one. So yes, there is duality in it, but I think we have to recognize the situation and the environment in which we in, where Black woman shows up. And when we are tired, sisters, when we tired, sit our asses down. Sit down, get some rest, drink water. You have fought hard, but you can't do it on empty. We got to sit down. I used to have a leader who would say, go sit down somewhere. She would just say that, Kendra, sit down somewhere. So I'm telling our sisters, white sisters too, sit down and rest. Sit down and rest. The work is still going to be there. The expectation is still going to be there, but we are dying early. I'm seeing sisters and brothers having heart attacks at 40 and 50. Principal Kafele, you know personally.
That's right.
What we take on and hold on to, and we want to save face because we don't want to crack. We crack it. And so I just got on a soapbox. I'm about to give some more history or whatever around that. I'm just saying we need to rest. We need to rest.
I love it, and with everything you said, I love, and I particularly love how you lifted up the name of our sister Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes.
You may know, others in the family out here may know, and we're getting ready to wrap it up for the family, so hang in there with us. But you may know I visit all these different historical places and monuments. You know, I'm always at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I'm always at the 16th Street Baptist. I'm always at Little Rock Central High School. And I can go on and on. But I'm also always up in the Mississippi Delta to go to Fannie Lou Hamer's gravesite. So that is a little park and right in the neighborhood, and then there's her gravesite. And I just go to these places over and over and over. You know, they never get old. It's not a one-time visit for me. It's not a museum. It's the real deal.
Yeah.
And even the structure of Bryant's Grocery, where Emmett Till allegedly whistled at that white woman, that structure, the frame is still there. It's an eroded building, but the structure's there, and they, for whatever reason, haven't knocked it down. Someone was telling me that it's become federal property and they want to turn it into a museum. But I go there, and I did a Facebook Live standing in front of it and literally put my life on the line, because not far from there is the Tallahatchie River. And there's a marker there, and they shoot it up every year. So if they shooting up that sign, if I'm standing in front of that store, my phone out doing a video, I know I risked
target.
Yeah, but I said I got to get this footage, so went on and did it. But wanted to thank you for that. Let's go to these rapid fires. I call them my BAM impact questions. Right. So I'm gonna start with Kelly. If you're ready, Kelly, because I see you moving.
Yeah. She had to plug in.
Yeah. All right.
No,
Kelly.
we're missing your audio.
Oh yeah, how about
that? Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Talk again. You not there fully.
Hold on. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry,
right.
I'm in a group, so I just gotta find the spot.
Yeah. Hey, Kelly and Kendra, this is we call this the rapid fire BAM questions. These are quick.
Okay.
One word answer or one sentence. But if you find yourself inserting a bunch of commas, you too long. Right?
We won't do it. We promise.
Here we go. Kelly, for the first set of 10, is education on the right path for underserved children?
No.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes.
Does Kelly Peaks Horner's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Absolutely.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Oh, that's a good one. The same.
Why do you continue to do the work that you do?
Because okay, I'm trying to do this in because it will save humanity.
What fires you up within the work you do?
besides Kendra, my relationship with Kendra, the women that I'm working with, the leaders.
And what do you particularly love about the work that you do?
The disruption. I relish in making people feel uncomfortable.
There you go. What do you dislike about the work you do?
Now these are words I got to choose. There's a lot of it to be done.
A lot of
There's
work.
a lot.
What has been your greatest victory in this work thus far?
This book, and we're about to roll out something new. So that we're about to roll out something that's going to give women the opportunity to do their own work. And I don't think I've seen it anywhere else.
Good stuff. Last one. What was your greatest mistake in the work that you do?
Greatest mistake. Oh, that should be easy. My greatest mistake was assuming everyone else had the same life experience as I did.
Kendra,
All right.
what has been your greatest challenge in the work that you do?
Greatest challenge.
And that could go all the way back to throughout your career.
Yeah. The greatest challenge, I think, is the greatest challenge, this is a personal one, is not allowing myself to have enough grace.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
No.
Who inspires you in your work?
My mother.
What are you reading right now? Book, blog, article, anything?
I am reading, well, I am watching on LinkedIn Dr. Jenny, because she writes about women in the workforce. And I'm reading, just got it today, the next iteration of blended coaching.
Okay. What book would you recommend for our viewers this afternoon?
Okay. Zora Neale Hurston's Barracoon. This talks about the last slave ship that entered the United States post-slavery. And this is in Alabama. And there is a place called Africa Town. But this is the story of the family that Zora Neale Hurston did. And this book is fantastic. This is a great source. So I recommend Barracoon. I had to buy a new book because my mother stole my last one.
I love it. And Africa Town still exists.
Yes, it does. You can go. I'm ready to go visit soon.
Yeah, yeah. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
So this is like big accomplishment. I want women, specifically women of color and leadership, to thrive in their work in service to marginalized communities. That's what I want.
Are you satisfied with where you are now professionally?
Absolutely.
What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Either kick them open or build your new structure with your own door.
Oh. And what could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Like a phoenix, fire will always come back. And so this might be a pause, but your fire is still, I don't think of it as lost. I just think of it, maybe it's just diminished.
Diminished. And if Dr. Kendra Washington Bass was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Oh my gosh, a word in the dictionary. Evolving.
Evolving. And if Kelly Peaks Horner was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Authentic.
Authentic. I love it. And that brings me to the conclusion. So let me say to the two of you first, I appreciate you immensely. I thank you for blessing this academy. And this is the official week of the new name. So you're like
Yes.
relaunching us with this new
Thank
name
you.
where we include the new principles. And to the family out there, the folks who've been with me, you know how we do. So just applaud them by way of just putting your favorite emojis in the chat, whatever platform you're on. Just and you all already started. So I mean, I only say it because I know there are new people every week that don't know that. But the people who are new to the platform, first time on, that's how we applaud our guests. Just put those emojis in as I see them. They're coming. There's a whole lot of
Got the hearts, all the little hearts.
Oh, you're looking. I'm not even looking.
Hand claps, fire, bombs, gems, everything. And then the way I applaud my guests is I get one of my 2 baseball bats over here. And they symbolize not only the home run, but the grand slam.
Yeah.
Right? Hit by one of the players, my man Josh Gibson. So you hit it out.
Gibson. Is that a Louisville Slugger?
This is a Louisville, and it came from Louisville. It was when I spoke there last.
Oh wow!
Nice. Oh, wow.
Got my name on there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be in Jefferson County School District tomorrow through Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
And then I went back there and got another one. Right. So they give me these.
Get out. Oh.
In Louisville.
Yes.
Yeah. So they hooked me up.
All right.
So when I'm on the road.
I'm gonna see if they'll give me a bag.
Yeah. No, they might just voluntarily just give it to me.
I would like a bag. Let me see if I can. If I get bat status, then I know I'm good.
Well, they know I wear these jerseys. That's the other thing. So that's part of it. But when I'm on the road, obviously I can't bring the bats. I got a little bat, my bag. It's this long, and so we use that. But I appreciate you. I saw all these emojis and they appreciate you. Real quick, I should have done this earlier. I should have done this midstream. Actually, tell the folks how to get in touch with you so they can bring you in to speak. And also the book.
Yep.
So the organization behind the book that we started is called the Lucy Leadership Project. You can find it at lucyleadershipproject.com. You can get a hold of us, lucyleadership@gmail.com. And we are about to launch self-paced learning modules that will be on the Lucy Leadership Project that will walk you through the book for you to start doing your own work. So that's a resource that will be up and running on the website in the next couple of weeks.
Outstanding. Outstanding. And then again,
and you can follow us on any of the channels.
Yeah, all the social media too.
Okay, give me them. Give them those names. What are those?
Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook.
Facebook is Lucy Leadership.
Under the names as they've written on the screen.
Yeah, the names is written on the screen, or Lucy Leadership Project.
Lucy Leadership Project.
Yeah.
And then you definitely want to get your hands on this, folks. Unwrapped, right? Again, the pursuit of justice for women educators. Get yourself a copy. Just go to Amazon.
Yes.
Let's take it to number 1.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with this book throughout the week. I've had it longer than a week, but I prepped for this week, so this is great stuff. So get yourself a copy.
Thank you.
And any parting, any closing thoughts that you want to share before I do my rundown? Or are you good?
Well, I will just say thank you for this opportunity, Principal Kafele. We appreciate the platform, but I also want to just say to those who are listening and those who listen, the new school year is about to start. So we want to wish you a happy new school year. We want to also encourage you to fight to disrupt the system and to do it in service to the kids who need your leadership more than ever.
Yeah. And just like you did today, for the women who showed up today, show up for each other, be there for each other. The greatest gift you can give another woman in your life is doing your own work and beginning your own unwrapping. That's a gift, not just to yourself, but the people that you work with, the people you live with, and the people that you lead.
Love it. Great stuff. Let me close this out, y'all. Don't leave me yet. Let me close this out and give you this information. Kendra and Kelly, y'all stay on. When I go off, stay there so we can talk off mic. Hey, y'all, listen.
Gotcha.
Appreciate you being here at week 169 of the AP and New Principals Academy, formerly known as the Virtual AP Leadership Academy. Join me next week for week number 170. I will have a guest, Dr. Rachel Edoeket, who's a principal, but she's also the author of The Principal's Journey, Navigating the Path to School Leadership. So the way I structured the questions, we're going to be relevant for everybody. But if you're an AP who aspires to become principal, you need to be here and you need to tell somebody. If you're an aspiring administrator, you need to be here and you need to tell somebody. But we're going to keep it, I've already worked on the questions. We're going to keep it relevant for everybody. So that's Dr. Rachel Edoeket, and that's the author of The Principal's Journey, Navigating the Path to School Leadership. She's usually on here. She was on here earlier. She may still be here. I don't know. But she's always on. She's a family member. Next week, Facebook Live, 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, followed by Create and Educate with the two doctors, Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor. Then on Sunday night, Josh Tovar and Dean Packard at 7 Eastern. These are all Eastern times. And then the Village Leadership Group with Dr. Roz Gaskins and Coach Williams, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. Get yourself a copy if you don't have it, The Assistant Principal Identity, Protecting Your Leadership Mindset, Fervor, and Authenticity. And then while you're at it, get it, sister, The Assistant Principal 50, right? So you get them both. Let me say this to you real quick. I finished writing The Assistant Principal Impact. I'm like months ahead of schedule. But now I'm wrestling if I want to send it to my publisher, because I might need to put a year in between the two books, because this Principal Identity is still brand new. I don't know that I want to release another book next May. I might want to put a year in between. I'll let you know, but the book is written. That's the good thing. So now when I'm on that cruise ship next week, I don't have to sit on the balcony writing a book. I can sit on the balcony looking at the water, right? So and just or looking at the sky, anything but doing some work, right? Because I need to take it like way down, right? Make sure y'all visit principalkafele.com. I got a lot of resources on there, right? So just make sure you visit, subscribe to the Virtual AP Leadership Academy YouTube channel. Again, subscribe, hit that little red button, and be a member of that. We got 18,700 subscribers, so we're getting close to 19,000 now. So subscribe to that, and then like and follow the Virtual AP Leadership Academy Facebook page. I'm saying Virtual AP. Subscribe to the AP and New Principals Academy, and like and follow the AP and New Principals Facebook page. I've been saying that thing for 3 years now, so it ain't like I can just. I got it written on the script, but I'm not reading what I wrote. So y'all know what it is. The AP and New Principal.
That's right.
Academy, right? Leadership. But I can't fit it in with they only give you X number of characters. So leadership is really what it is, but I just don't have it. And thanks for a lot of y'all telling me to enjoy the trip, and I appreciate you for that. Y'all see me next Saturday now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here next Saturday. And lastly, y'all, as I always say, your diet and exercise. Take care of yourselves. As a matter of fact, I wrote in my notes here the commentary. I haven't done a commentary on Sundays with the Facebook page in a long time, y'all. First Sunday in September, I'm gonna be back at it, and I'm gonna go through for the whole year. Just let me just keep taking it down and enjoy this summer as best I can. But then in September, I'll start writing the weekly commentary on the Facebook AP and New Principal Academy. Your diet, man. Let me tell y'all something. I walked away from some brownies this week. I walked away from some cookies this week. I slipped on this young lady. I was at the SREB conference, because I got to tell the truth, because Vincent Stallings on here and he was right next to me. This young lady had this cookie, and I said, "Yo, where did you get that cookie?" She said, "Right over there." I said, he said, "You want me to get me one?" I said, "Well, actually, I don't, but yeah, get it."
Yeah.
Nice sugar cookie. I ain't supposed to be messing with. Moderation, doctor said.
Yeah, everything in moderation.
She brought me 2 cookies.
Oh,
I was proud of myself that I only ate 1.
There it is.
I ate 1. So y'all know that don't grab everything that looks good, because it ain't always good for you. Get that exercise in. On Thursday night, I had to speak Friday. Wednesday night, one of them nights, I was on the treadmill at 1 a.m. I said, I got to get this in. I didn't do a full one. I did 30 minutes, right? So make sure, let me see what Stalin said. I didn't eat them both, man. I ate one of them. I ate the sugar cookie and put the chocolate chip down, right? Oh, you sit up here and tell that lie.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, and then your COVID-19 precautions, man. Just stay safe, y'all. You know, I ain't tell y'all what to do. Just do whatever you're supposed to do to keep yourself safe. Other than that, I appreciate you all being here. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! That's it, man. That's the exclamation. Bam! I see y'all next Saturday, man. I can't wait to get on and talk about this stuff. We keep it going. Have a great one and be safe, everybody.